junior secondary schools and enhance their remuneration and benefit to commensurate with the academic qualification. 3, could the Commission state the measures as put in place, if any, to compensate graduate teachers serving under P1 grade for the years they have worked as graduate teachers, and if not, are there any plans to compensate them, and how long will it take for the teachers to be compensated? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The question goes to the Departmental Committee on Education. Honourable Members, the next question by the Honourable Rueda Obo. The Honourable Member has requested that she has an emergency in her constituency, so the question will be deferred to Tuesday afternoon. The Honourable Abdurrahman Mohammed Abdi Lafe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to request for statement regarding implementation of older person cash transfer program. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 44.2c, I rise to request for statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Social Protection regarding implementation of older person cash transfer program in the country. Honorable Speaker, it is of a great concern that the number of elder persons from vulnerable background, particularly Lafay constituency and across the country, who are in the need of financial support for their sustainability. In regards to their well-being, is tremendously high. The coverage of the old person cash transfer program is very low. At the national level, nearly 90% of potential eligible poor household with at least one older person aged 65 and above is not receiving old person cash transfer program benefits, indicating a very high under-coverage rate. However, the value of this program is not sufficient to actually lift the people out of poverty, and issues of adequacy remains unsettled. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the chairperson, Departmental Committee on Social Protection, on the following. 1. Could the chairperson request for status report and the list from the ministry on those who benefit from this program in Lafay constituency and the exact amount they receive? 2. Could the chairperson provide information on the criteria used in the process of selecting the beneficiaries for the older person cash transfer program? 3. Could the chairperson explain the measures and the mechanism the government put in place for identifying and reaching the vulnerable person, such as disabled elders and those who are incapacitated? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next, Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 44.2a, I rise to give the following statement on behalf of the House Business Committee, which met on Thursday, 28 February 2023, to prioritize the business for consideration during the week. Honorable Speaker, as members are aware, the House did approve the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the first supplementary estimates for the financial year 2022-2023 on Tuesday, 28 February 2023. This, Honorable Speaker, paved the way for publication of the Supplementary Appropriations Bill of 2023, and in line with our standing orders, the bill was considered at all stages yesterday and passed. Allow me, Honorable Speaker, to commend the Budget and Appropriations Committee and the Debt Committee and all members of the House, including all our chairs of departmental committees that were involved in this process, and indeed, as I mentioned, all members for their steadfast commitment during this process that saw the successful conclusion of this important business yesterday. Honorable Speaker, with the conclusion of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, the focus now of the House shifts to the consideration of budget policy statement and the debt management strategy paper. In this regard, Honorable Speaker, do expect, in line with what is listed as Order Number 8 and Order Number 9, that we will pass two procedural motions this afternoon to allow for extension of the period for consideration of the BPS and the debt management strategy. This, Honorable Speaker, will ensure that committees and the House have enough time to engage all the stakeholders, noting that the resolutions that we emanate from the work around the BPS and the debt management strategy will form the basis for the vertical distribution of national revenue through the Division of Revenue Bill and the annual estimates for the next financial year. Honorable Speaker, it is also expected the House will today consider the report of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs on the vetting of Honorable Shadrach Mose for appointment. Sorry, Honorable Speaker, gadgets here are playing themselves. It is expected the House will today consider the report of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs on the vetting of the Honorable Shadrach John Mose for appointment as the Solicitor General of the Republic of Kenya. I want to urge members to be present and to actively participate in this important business of the House this afternoon. Honorable Speaker, members will note that the House Business Committee resolved to commence the processing of members' questions pending the conclusion of the report of the Procedure and House Rules Committee on the matter. Indeed, Honorable Speaker, several members have already asked questions in the House this week. Consultations are ongoing with the Executive as we endeavor to schedule the answering of these questions in the coming weeks. Honorable Speaker, for information of the House, the business for the next week includes the resumption of the general debate on proposals to amend the Constitution and the standing orders, debate on the report of the 42nd session of the Organization of the Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific States and the European Union Joint Parliamentary Assembly, and the second reading of the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments Bill, National Assembly Bill number 60 of 2022, should any of the business not be concluded today. Finally, Honorable Speaker, the House Business Committee will reconvene again on Tuesday, 7th March 2023, to schedule business for the rest of the week. I now wish to lay this statement on the table of the House. Thank you.
Thank you, Majority. Honorable members, before I go to the next order, I wish to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's Gallery of Kanjalu Girls High School from Tigania West in Meru. Honorable members, on your behalf and on my own behalf, I wish to welcome the school, the students and the teachers to the House of Parliament. Thank you. Next order.
Order number 8, procedural motion, extension of the period of consideration of the budget policy statement.
And Appropriations Committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I rise to move the procedural motion on the extension of period for consideration of the budget policy statement, that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 232-7 relating to presentation of budget policy statement, this House resolves to extend the period for consideration of the budget policy statement 2023 by a period of 14 days from the 1st March 2023. Mr. Speaker, in brief, the reason for this prayer is that, Mr. Speaker, law was made for man, not man for the law. Mr. Speaker, we are in a period that is different from the other years, because last year was a transition year. We had a new government in place, Mr. Speaker, and in that process of having the new government in place, Mr. Speaker, a lot of time as stipulated in PMF Act and also in our standing orders was lost in the way. Mr. Speaker, the budget making process primarily starts with something called, we call sector working groups, where 10 sectors, as we have compartmentalized the country in 10 sectors, meet to have their priorities, Mr. Speaker, and also have their limits. And Mr. Speaker, this ordinarily happens in September. But unfortunately, because of this period, Mr. Speaker, and what happened after the elections, this was only possible to be done in November. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, this also affected the calendar for the consideration of the BPS. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, is that the budget-making process is a consultative process where we need to hear as many voices as possible. And Mr. Speaker, in this regard, many MDAs present their issues to various departmental committees, and thereafter the departmental chairs appear before the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Mr. Speaker, as we were considering the supplementary estimates, we realized that we have been limiting chairs in regards to presenting the issues within their MDAs. And therefore, first of all, we needed to give them time to interrogate their MDAs in a more comprehensive manner, but also as they appear in the Budget and Appropriations Committee, we did not rush them too much, Mr. Speaker, in regard to time. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, is that we are seeking to consider this BPS in a very comprehensive manner. We don't want to do it as a routine, Mr. Speaker, where we give chairs only 10 to 20 minutes. Mr. Speaker, the enormity of this exercise, Mr. Speaker, I think it transcends the time that has been set. And Mr. Speaker, I will implore upon this House later that we make adjustments in PMF, that instead of the 14 days, that we should actually report to this House after the tabling of the BPS. Mr. Speaker, will be putting forth recommendations that we extend that from 14 days to 28 days so that, Mr. Speaker, we can have these considerations done in ample time because this is a very, very important exercise. Mr. Speaker, I move and I call upon Honorable Gabriel Kagombe from Gatoto South to second this procedural motion.
Honorable Kagombe.
Honorable Speaker, I stand to second this procedural motion because of the seriousness of the timelines that are required. So, having looked at the budget, the estimates that came to Parliament from National Treasury, the timelines are not sufficient, and I therefore second the motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
We have not proposed yet. Honorable members, I propose the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 2327 relating to presentation of budget policy statement, this House resolved to extend the period for consideration of the budget policy statement 2023 by a period of 14 days from 1st March 2023. There being no interest in contributing to the debate, I now put the question, which is that notwithstanding the provision of Standing Order 2327 relating to presentation of budget policy statement, this House resolves to extend the period for consideration of the budget policy statement 2023 by a period of 14 days from 1st March 2023. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, procedural motion, extension of the period for the consideration of the debt management strategy.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 232A4 relating to the presentation of the debt management strategy, this House resolves to extend the period of consideration of the debt management strategy 2023 by a period of 10 days from 1st of March 2023. Honorable Speaker, as this House is aware that Kenya's public debt stock has reached Kenya's shillings 9.15 trillion and presently accounts for 67% of the GDP. Honorable Speaker, the 2023 medium-term debt management strategy is intended to provide a financing strategy that will minimize the cost and risk of public debt. Honorable Speaker, this year, unlike previous years, this House has a dedicated committee to review the debt management strategy. This is a new level of policy specialization that this House can count on, and we thank the House for the continued support. Honorable Speaker, based on these factors, I beg to move. I thank you. I ask the member for Gatanga to second.
The member for Gatanga.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to take this opportunity to second this motion, and bearing in mind the importance of this motion, in particular on the debt management in this country, and bearing in mind it's a fact that the debt stand over 9.1 trillion, and where 1.3 trillion of our national revenue goes to service that debt, it's appropriate, it's important that we give each and every member of this parliament an opportunity to ventilate on the issue of debt management. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, I second the motion.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Members, I now propose the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 232A4 relating to presentation of debt management strategy, this House resolves to extend the period for consideration of the debt management strategy 2023 by a period of 10 days from 1st March 2023. There being no interest in debating the motion, I now put the question, which is that notwithstanding the provision of Standing Order 232A4 relating to presentation of debt management strategy, this House resolves to extend the period of consideration of the debt management strategy 2023 by a period of 10 days from 1st March 2023. As members of that opinion say aye. Those of the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 10, special motion, consideration of a nominee for appointment as the Solicitor General.
The Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to move that, taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs in its report on the vetting of a nominee for the appointment as the Solicitor General of the Republic of Kenya, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, March 1st, 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 9 of the Office of the Attorney General Act 2012 and Section 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, this House approves the appointment of Honorable Shadrach John Mose as the Solicitor General of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to inform this House that the Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs has produced a report, a vetting report after hearing the candidate. It's a detailed report which each member ought to have a copy, and it contains all the relevant material necessary for approval of this candidate. We began by establishing that, in fact, the background information was in order, including how the position was advertised. He was interviewed by PSC. Eventually, he was appointed by His Excellency the President, who communicated to the House, and the matter was referred to Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. We then from there held approval hearings on the 23rd of February 2023, and it clearly emerged that Honorable Shadrach John Mose, a former member of parliament, is qualified to become the Solicitor General of the Republic of Kenya. We were able to establish his educational background, which was straight. We were also able to establish his own ethics. Again, he passed very well because he had all the documents. We were able to establish whether he has the capacity to be the Solicitor General. And it was clear to us that as a renowned lawyer in this Republic of Kenya, and also as a former member of parliament, he is qualified. That too bled very well because this is a public office that actually requires both the professional qualification and public service so that he is able to deliver and discharge his duties. We had various findings and observations which are contained in this report. At the end of it all, we made a recommendation to the House that Shadrach John Mose be approved. Vetting is not an examination. It is purely like a peer review where members of parliament do question the candidate as to his own or her own suitability. And here, the Solicitor General is actually the Deputy Attorney General in the country. He is also like the Principal Secretary in the Office of the Attorney General, being the accounting officer. But most of it is he is a lawyer. And in this Committee of Justice and Legal Affairs, there are seats, well-known advocates and lawyers who actually had a peer review of Shadrach John Mose. I start by pointing out the Member of Parliament for Kibwezi West, the Vice Chair, Honorable John Mutuse. We have Honorable Farah Malim of Dadaab, Francis Kajuang TJ of Ruaraka, Otiende Amolo, Senior Counsel. We had Onyego Silvas Soro. We have Makali John Okwisia of Kandui, Honorable Murio Wakili Edward, Honorable Maina Jane Njeri. Honorable Murio is of Katanga, while Jane Njeri is Kirinyaga. We also had Honorable Gishohi Kagusha John Philip of Mukurweine, Honorable Mogaka Stephen of West Mugirango, Honorable Mohammed Aden Dawood of Waji East Constituency. All these are advocates who actually had the peer review, the vetting, and all of us were actually of a unanimous decision that Honorable Shadrach John Mose be approved. Therefore, with those remarks, and having considered the suitability, capacity, and integrity of the nominee, and pursuant to the laws we have quoted, the laws we relied upon, that is Section 9 of the Office of the Attorney General Act 2012 and Section 8.2 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, the Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs recommends that the National Assembly, which is this house this afternoon, approves the appointment of Honorable Shadrach John Mose to the position of Solicitor General of the Republic of Kenya. With those very many remarks, I beg to move and request the Honorable Sylvanus Onyego Osoro, the Chief Whip, and a member of the committee to actually second. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Speaker, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the nominee has, what we found out during the vetting, the nominee was admitted in 1992. He has a vast experience in legal practice, over 30 years. Not a single disciplinary case has been lodged against him with the Law Society of Kenya. He's also ran his private practice for about 25 years or so. And very successfully, and several young legal practitioners have gone through his law firm. And as a member of parliament, of course, for 5 years, he's created huge networks within this house and across the country, with good relationship with several members of high standing in the society. And also, what to note, Honorable Speaker, is that even the member that succeeded him actually came to offer support, moral support for him. So that clearly shows that the gentleman has really had good relationship with the people. So with those very few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to second. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Soro. Honorable members, I propose the question, which is that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs in its report on the vetting of a nominee for the appointment as the Solicitor General of the Republic of Kenya, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, March 1st, 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 9 of the Office of the Attorney General Act 2022 and Section 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, this House approves the appointment of Honorable Shadrach John Mose as the Solicitor General of the Republic of Kenya. The screen is full. I don't know if it's full for this matter or earlier orders. I'll start with the Honorable Ekomas Mutuse Kibwezi West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I sit in the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee as the Vice Chairperson and participated in the vetting of Honorable John Mose. And I confirm that from my own observation, Honorable John Mose is suitable to hold the office of the Solicitor General. Shadrach Mose. Mr. Speaker, members are aware that at this time, Parliament is considering the budget policy for next year's budget. And the Solicitor General is the accounting officer for the State Law Office. And therefore, there is urgency in having a substantive Solicitor General so that to give policy and accounting direction to the Office of the Attorney General. And for those reasons, I urge this House to approve the appointment, having been a former colleague, having been a professional lawyer of many years standing, so that we can move forward as a country and we can have the right people in office. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Jared Okello Nyando.
Honorable Speaker, I thank you very much for the opportunity. And on the same breath, I want to also support the appointment of our brother Shadrach Mose. Shadrach was a colleague here, Honorable Speaker. He was such a humble guy. I did not even know that he was a lawyer because of his humility.
Are you saying lawyers are not humble?
I take back that, Honorable Speaker. I take back that, Honorable Speaker.
Totally out of order.
But, Honorable Speaker, suffice to say, Honorable Shadrach, coming from the Gusii community, where we have had lots of complaints about alienation when they were giving out the positions of permanent secretaries, I think this will feed into helping the Gusii community come to the realization that at least they have been remembered. But again, Honorable Speaker, we have had lots of pending bills at the AG's office, and the Solicitor General plays an important role to respecting payments when it comes to cases that have been lost by government in our superior courts, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, I do believe that once he settles in office, he will move a little faster to make sure that we do not pile up these pending bills, especially for the lowly in society who are feeding not from hand to mouth but finger to tooth, that these payments will be respected and they will have their monies and their lives will be improved. And I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity, and I support.
The Honorable John Kagusha.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. And honorable members, Honorable Speaker, I am a member of the JLAC committee, which vetted Honorable Shadrach Mose. And I also stand to support this motion. And I support that he actually is approved by this National Assembly. Honorable Speaker, when we were interviewing this gentleman, one of the things I appreciated is that he's an honorable member who've actually served the people of this republic with dedication, with commitment, and he has shown interest in ensuring that the public good is upheld. Honorable Speaker, one of the things that made me consider this candidate positively is because when we put questions to him as to whether he's going to assist the government to ensure that he puts the correct and right advice to the government, he answered to the affirmative, because we all know that the government has had challenges, especially of losing major and landmark cases. We all remember the way government lost a case in BBI and many other cases that the government has kept losing. And what Honorable Shadrach Mose put across is that it's going to give the right advice to the AG and to the government to ensure that the government is actually winning cases. Again, we also know that we have had contracts that have been signed by government where the government has ended up losing. The people of this republic have ended up losing immensely because of carelessness, and sometimes you realize that it's because of the wrong advice. For example, in a situation where you have an area where we are signing a contract where we are also ceding our sovereignty as a country, that is definitely a wrong contract. And one of the things that Shadrach Mose was able to assure our committee is that he's going to be keen to ensure that in future we do not have those kind of contracts where the public loses in terms of whatever the contract has been signed. We are aware of the SGR contract, for example, where the government has lost immensely. Now, those are some of the things that have made us approve and support this gentleman. And we believe that he's going to be keen, he's going to be alert, and he's going to be committed and dedicated to his work so that we can have nothing but the best in terms of the contracts that are going to be signed in this government. And of course, lastly, he promised that he's going to fast-track all the pending bills that are in the Attorney General's office to ensure that all those bills have their way in this House and that we pass them for the benefit of our people. Honorable Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Wandai, James Wandai, the leader from minority.
Madam Speaker, let me make a few comments about this report concerning the nominee, the Honorable Shadrach Mose, whom I know very well. You know, Shadrach Mose joined us in the last parliament. And I've got no doubt that he's a good lawyer. A good lawyer. He was not known to be very controversial. So I think his demeanor should be able to help him steer this very critical docket. But let me also say, Madam Speaker, that Shadrach Mose is seeking to fill very, very big shoes. Very, very big shoes. The person Shadrach is set to succeed, that is Mr. Kenogetu, was a very, very competent jurist and administrator. I had the occasion to interact with him when I was chairing the Public Accounts Committee in the last parliament, before which he used to come as the accounting officer of the State Law Office. Ken was able to address issues efficiently, effectively, and on a timely manner. So I suppose that Shadrach will be able to
carry forward. I mean, carry along with the work that Ken was doing in that very important office. It also comes as a coincidence. I don't know if it's a coincidence or by design that both Honorable Mose and his predecessor come from the same region. Same region. So I'm not sure if what Honorable Kelly was saying is true, that the Guzi community should see this as a reward. It is not. Shadrach is simply replacing one of their own. You see? So there's no gain for the Guzi community in this. There's no gain whatsoever. There's no gain whatsoever for the Guzi community. In fact, I feel for the Abagusi community. They have gotten a very low deal in this regime, Madam Speaker. Can you imagine that out of over 50 plus principal secretaries, the Abagusi have got not a single one? It has never happened in the independent history of this country. And I'm not just talking for the sake of talking. That is a requirement of the Constitution. It is in the Constitution that as you make appointments, you put into consideration regional, ethnic, and all other balances. And therefore, as we debate the nomination of Mr. Honorable Mosi, we must feel for the Bagusi community. And I think this House has got the mandate, in fact, the power to right those kind of wrongs. Such wrongs must be righted by this House. Because otherwise, if we let such wrongs take root, this country will go a very wrong direction to the detriment of all of us and the future generations. So, Madam Speaker, as I stand here not to oppose this proposed appointment, I can't oppose it. It will be wrong for me to oppose it, because otherwise I'll be contributing to the injustice. I'll be an accomplice to the injustice being meted on the Bagusi community if I oppose this nomination. Well put. Okay? Well put. And therefore, I rest my case. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Minority Whip. Thank you. Is anything out of order, Leader, for Majority?
No, I've not contributed.
Oh, yeah. So you may proceed, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I was a little mesmerized by the defense that the Leader of Minority has put up. The only unfortunate thing is that the Leader of Minority is in a way trying to incite or excite ethnic feelings, but the people of Kenya, unfortunately, are more intelligent than that today. The people of Kenya know that people are appointed into offices and even elected. That is how the people of Kenya elected a president, on merit and on the basis of his ability and the manifesto he sold and his vision for the people of Kenya, not on the basis of his ethnicity. And therefore, I want to encourage the Leader of Minority to apprentice himself and bring himself up to speed to where the majority of Kenyans are. The majority of the Kenyan people are not looking at us on the basis of our ethnicities, but the content of what is in our heads and how we can apply what is in our heads to serve the people of Kenya. And therefore, I support the appointment of the Honorable Shadrach Mose, not on the basis of his ethnicity. And if anything, if I listen to the Leader of Minority and what he's saying, Honorable Shadrach Mose is a principal secretary per se, because he is the accounting officer in the office of the Attorney General of Kenya. And therefore, you cannot say that there is a community that doesn't have an accounting officer, because principal secretaries are accounting officers. And the Honorable Shadrach Mose, not representing the Abagusi community, but as a man who has been vetted, and the committee and many members who have spoken ahead of me and also myself agree, merits to serve as an accounting officer in the office of the Attorney General. He warrants that position, Honorable Speaker. And having served with him in the last parliament, in the 12th parliament, Honorable Speaker, I can confirm to the country that the Honorable Shadrach Mose is not just a humble servant of the people, but a very diligent worker. Those who worked with him in the House Business Committee in the last assembly can bear me witness on that. Those who served in the Transport and Infrastructure Committee in the last parliament can also bear witness. And I also happened to work with the Honorable Mose as he ran for his parliamentary seat on a UDA ticket. And as we formed the UDA, we worked very closely with the Honorable Shadrach Mose, and he's not a man you can intimidate. He withstood a lot of intimidation and coercion by those who believed that they had the state, they had what they call the deep state, the system, and those who believed they had all the powers to even indicate to people in parts of Nyanza, where he comes from, where they had to go to politically. And the Honorable Shadrach Mose stood firm to ensure that he stood for what he believed for. But I want to encourage him as he settles down in the state law office to ensure that, as he did promise during his vetting, he will professionalize the state law office. We must not again see many cases being lost by government in court, and we must work with him and support him as he sought during his vetting to enhance the budget for the state law office to ensure that they have good professionals and they can retain the best brains in the country. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to support.
Thank you very much, Majority Leader. The Honorable Lilian Gogo, member for Rangwe.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. I also rise to support matters that concern a colleague. The Honorable Shadrach is not only a colleague, but an astute lawyer, and is a Kenyan of good standing and well-meaning to the people of Kenya. And I want to thank the JLA committee for taking its time to vet this particular candidate for this good office. And Honorable Speaker, there are a class of people out there who think that members of parliament, people in the National Assembly or Senate are not well read. But from what has been presented here, in the name of Shadrach Mose, who is being proposed and vetted for the position of the Solicitor General, Madam Speaker, if you could protect me from loud discussions because I'm disrupted.
Honorable members,
yes.
Order, honorable members. I request that you consult in lower tone so that the honorable member for Rangwe can be heard.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker. There are some people who think once they have spoken, then a question should be put. But here I am supporting the nomination of this particular candidate, Honorable Speaker, and it is a good show that Parliament has content, Parliament has people who can also be charged with other national responsibilities. And I thank the committee for doing a good job, and I support the proposal that Honorable Shadrach Mose be the Solicitor General. I thank you.
What is out of order? The Honorable Kagombe, what is out of order?
Madam Speaker, I rise on standing order number 95-1, and I have listened to the debate about the appointment of the Solicitor General in this House. And Madam Speaker, I am convinced that what has been put and the mood of the House is that you put the question because the debate has been exhaustively discussed, and I therefore request, Madam Speaker, that you put the question and we call the move of the debate, put the question, and we finish this debate. Put the question, Madam Speaker. Thank you. Sorry, the mover to be called upon to reply.
Okay, order, honorable members. I would like first of all to find out whether it is the mood of the House that I put the question. So, honorable members, is it the mood of the House that I put the question? Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Will as many of the other opinion say nay? Honorable members, the ayes have it. Honorable members, before I do that, Honorable members, before I put the question, then I'm obliged to give an opportunity to the mover to reply.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to reply. Thank you.
Honorable members, then I therefore put the question that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs in its report on the vetting of a nominee for the appointment as the Solicitor General of the Republic of Kenya, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, March 1st, 2023, and pursuant to provisions of Section 9 of the Office of the Attorney General's Act 2012 and Section 8 of the Public Appointment Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, this House approves the appointment of the Honorable Shadrach John Mose as the Solicitor General of the Republic of Kenya. Honorable members, will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the opposite opinion say nay? The ayes have it. The member for Turkana County. You may now move the adjournment motion. You may proceed, member for Turkana.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to table this motion of adjournment of the House under Standing Order 33 subsection 1 to discuss rising insecurity cases in the North Rift counties. Madam Speaker, I had read the motion notice, and all I want to do now is to mention a few things and then invite my colleagues to elaborate on the same debate. Madam Speaker, it cannot be business as usual. We cannot afford to sit here comfortably when some other parts of Kenya are not really living as they are required to be. Madam Speaker, as we sit here, some families have been displaced from their ancestral land, Madam Speaker, due to banditry. Madam Speaker, as we speak, some schools have been burnt down and Kenyan children are not going to school because the bandits burnt down their schools, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as we sit here, some roads that are linking Kenya to international businesses are not passable. For instance, the A1 road that links Kenya to South Sudan is impassable as we speak. Many people have lost lives and we've lost property. Madam Speaker, as we sit here, many families in Turkana region, and I believe in the other regions that I mentioned, have been rendered poor because they have lost their livestock to this banditry menace. And you know, in those regions, livestock is the main livelihood. Madam Speaker, we've lost a lot of property to the banditry menace. We've lost schools, we've lost facilities like hospitals, they have been burnt down. So it is not, I've always said it is no longer cattle rustling as people would say. Madam Speaker, the conflict in the North Rift has become a land issue. It's no longer cattle rustling. Because, Madam Speaker, as you can observe, when these people are raided and killed, the perpetrators of these heinous acts move to settle in those places, meaning their main aim is to chase away these people from their ancestral land in quest for enlarging their territories. Madam Speaker, we've lost officials, government officials, to this menace. You remember the former president was giving a directive after Kenya lost over 20 GSU officers in Kapedo. And the perpetrators would just go on and say, sorry, Mr. President, we thought they were Turkanas. And that was on record. Madam Speaker, and the bandits could go ahead and don on those uniforms, take away those guns, and kill more Kenyans using our own ammunitions. Madam Speaker, there are instances where when you go to the scene of crime or the war scene, you get that the cartridges of war, some of them are marked with our own made in Kenya labels, meaning these bandits are accessing ammunitions from the government factories, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, today I want to thank the President of the Republic of Kenya as the head of the defense forces of this country. He had ordered that the defense forces to be deployed in these areas that have recorded high numbers of attacks. Madam Speaker, as we speak, although we don't have information, clean information, because I know this is August House, we are not supposed to share rumors here, but we can share what we hear out there. Word has it that some leaders in this house are in record financing this menace, Madam Speaker. And they have even gone ahead to contribute money to compromise the commanders of the KDF forces so that the KDF officers cannot carry out their duties as they have been directed by the Commander-in-Chief. Madam Speaker, as we speak, there is an operation going on in those regions, but the attacks and raids are still going on, Madam Speaker. As we speak, there are students who are not going to school. Their schools have been burnt down, yet the operation is still ongoing, Madam Speaker. So we are not understanding where are these KDF camps and where are the bandits doing these operations from. Madam Speaker, there are these video clips doing rounds in social media of the drone of the KDF forces. They have seen where these bandits are hiding from. They have seen where they are cooking from. They are having their breakfast, even attempting to shoot the drones, and nothing has been done, Madam Speaker. We just want to know, who is this person that is above the president, that these bandits really depend upon, Madam Speaker? We have seen leaders making insightful statements, and nothing has been done about them. Because when a leader stands up and threatens the government that if government brings, I don't know, anarchy, we will serve them anarchy in huge doses, and the government has done nothing about it. Madam Speaker, the financials of banditry in the north are in this house. They are sitting pretty, and the government is just seated looking at them. Madam Speaker, we just want the government to smell the coffee. It is no longer business as usual. It has gone to the level of terrorism, Madam Speaker.
What is out of order? Honorable Ambassador Benjamin Langat, member for Anapoi.
Madam Speaker, while I did not want to interrupt the member, but Madam Speaker, this House is entitled to factual information. And casting aspersions on members of this House and members of defense forces, Mr. Speaker, is completely out of order. Madam Speaker, I heard the honorable member saying some defense forces members have been compromised. I've also heard her say some members of this House are financing the banditry, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, can she name the members, substantiate the information she's giving this House? Otherwise, Madam Speaker, this motion is not coming the right way, Madam Speaker.
Member for Turkana, what is your comment about the matter that has been raised by the member for Ainamoi?
Madam Speaker, the honorable member shocks me. You know, he's not affected. He's speaking from his comfort zone. He has never lost a relative to this menace. He has never lost a property to this menace. So he's just commenting from his comfort zone. Honorable member, you don't need rocket science to understand that the sponsors of the banditry are in this house. Honorable Speaker, recently, the bandits were airlifted.
Order, member for Turkana.
Honorable Speaker, recently there is a video
Member for Turkana, order. There is a matter that has been raised by the member for Ainamoi, the Honorable Benjamin Langat, concerning two allegations that you have made. One, that members of the defense forces have been compromised. And two, that some members of this house are financing banditry attacks. And these are very strong allegations. And I would like to give you an opportunity. Would you like, you can make a decision to withdraw and proceed, or I can give you an opportunity to substantiate what you have said.
I will not withdraw.
Further, Honorable Member for Turkana, I would like to give you guidance on a standing order, based on standing order number 87, contents of speeches, and I'll go to 4, 87.4. No member shall impute improper motive on any other member or to a senator except upon a specific substantive motion of which at least 3 days' notice has been given, calling in question the conduct of that member or that senator. So I would like to give you an opportunity to, you can make a decision to withdraw, or if you want to continue, we can give you an opportunity to table the names.
Madam Speaker, someone is keeping on switching me from one mic to another. What is happening?
The mic that you had has a problem, so kindly move to the mic on your left.
Moved here again. Msilete banditry hata hapo. Madam Speaker, you see, I'm being switched from one mic to another. What is happening?
Honorable Member for Turkana, you have the floor and you have the mic.
Yeah,
please proceed.
Please, and protect me so that no one switches me to the other mic again. Madam Speaker, you've read to me some standing order about facts in this house. Madam Speaker, whatever is happening in the social media and in our mainstream media, stared at by all Kenyans, can be said to be facts. When you have an honorable member of this house owning a chopper, airlifting bandits who have a case in court concerning the same, what do you want me to say about the same, Madam Speaker? Then secondly, about the compromise of the defense forces, Madam Speaker.
I would like to exhaust the initial point of order by the member for Ainamoi.
Yes, Madam Speaker, and please protect me from honorable members like Wanjala, who is sitting in the inside Kenya, who doesn't know what we are going through in the North Rift. Please, Honorable Wanjala, stop bullying me. I have to make my points.
You know, Honorable Member for Turkana, you have a very important motion that you are supposed to prosecute. And remember that you rose on the floor of the House this afternoon and you got the requisite quorum of 20 members. And you have a very important business that you need to do. And you have the protection that you need, and I can assure you that I did not notice the shouting that you're talking about by the Honorable Wanjala. It wasn't loud enough to distract what you are saying. I would like to give you an opportunity, based on that standing order number 87, to make a decision on what you would like to do. Would you like to withdraw and proceed with your motion, or you would like me to give you an opportunity to substantiate what you have just said? And remember that you have still made further additional allegations.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I'm a Christian. There is information with our Directorate of Criminal Investigations about these matters. And we cannot be gagged from saying what we know, Madam Speaker. And if at all anyone thinks I'm speaking lies, Madam Speaker, why then would you think a primitive community like mine, where I come from, Turkana, that is a pastoralist community, they are called primitive in quotes, or Pokots or Marakwets, or how can they sustain a war with a government without sponsorship, Madam Speaker? What do you want us to understand with that? And there are people, whenever these communities are brought to book, who come right away into the media to protect them, to airlift them. Madam Speaker, Kainuk, there are OBs in our police stations in Kainuk. There are OB occurrences in those books where some vehicles coming from our nearby counties carrying ammunition to be supplied to those krals who stay in Turkana County at the moment. And you don't want us to say all that. Madam Speaker, I will not withdraw that statement. And about the compromise of the KDF, Madam Speaker, even when our KDF were working on Al-Shabaab, let me substantiate the last one.
Honorable, you can take your seat. First of all, you have withdrawn, and I take notice of that, so that you can continue. You can proceed with your motion. You have withdrawn. I would also like to give you guidance based on the same standing order number 87-6. Except as the Speaker may otherwise allow, it shall be out of order for a member to refer to an extract from print or electronic media as an authority in a member's speech. And I would like to encourage you to proceed. You are doing very well. Please proceed and move your motion.
Okay, Madam Speaker.
I took notice that the honorable member for Turkana withdrew.
Madam Speaker. Okay, Madam Speaker, I stand guided by the Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, I choose to continue tabling my motion.
Honorable member for Turkana. Member for Turkana. I would like to give you an opportunity to withdraw and proceed. I would like to give you an opportunity.
Madam Speaker, if the word withdrawal will make me table my motion, I withdraw and I'm going on tabling my motion, Madam Speaker.
You may proceed.
Madam Speaker, the main reason of adjournment motion is to stir emotives and emotions within this House that really we are sitting pretty here when things are going wrong on the ground. Madam Speaker, we cannot sit here. Some constituencies, their children are going to school. Ours are not going to school. Simply because their schools were burnt down, the teachers cannot be posted there because there is some community that has trained terrorists who cannot allow teachers to carry out their duties, Madam Speaker. So it will be an injustice if we are told not to put things as they are, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as we sit here, there are people in Lomelo, that is Kapero Napetom ward in Turkana East, who have no homes because in the 2 nights before, they were burnt down, Madam Speaker. And you just want us to sit here tabling motions that are not of any importance to this country, Madam Speaker. When lives of Kenyans are endangered as we sit here, the people we represent have no homes. As all of us will be under a roof tonight, there are people who are sitting under trees, Madam Speaker, waiting for their death because they are surrounded by bandits in Lomelo. That is Kapero Napetom ward in Turkana East, Madam Speaker. As we sit here, Madam Speaker, we will travel safe to our houses, then come back next week to this House. There are people who cannot access their homes because those roads are impassable due to this banditry menace, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I think the highest intervention is the one that has been done by the President, who is the Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces of this country. He has deployed defense forces to those areas. But, Madam Speaker, surprisingly, the raids are still going on. So what do you want us to deduce from that? The defense forces are on ground, but raids are still happening. Vehicles are not passing the A1 road. Children are not going to school. Schools keep on being burnt. Homes are being burnt. Some people are burnt alive in their houses, Madam Speaker, in the Capedo ward. And you say this is a country we all belong to, Madam Speaker. It is so unfair, Madam Speaker. And as we even face the internal aggression, Madam Speaker, we still lose lives to the external boundaries. We are still being raided by people from South Sudan. We are still being raided by people from Ethiopia, by people from Uganda. And we belong to this country, Madam Speaker. During this freedom era, Madam Speaker, it is so unfortunate. Madam Speaker, some of us have been sent here to represent our people. And it is unfortunate when we take up to the floor to explain what they go through on their daily lives. Then people take it as a joke. It is so unfortunate. Madam Speaker, I therefore call this House to give a consideration to this motion. Discuss, try to put your feet into our shoes. Can you put your feet into our shoes? You are not sure of being elected next time because our numbers are reducing daily. We are losing electorates every day, Madam Speaker. Even registration of persons to get the IDs are frustrated efforts in our county, Madam Speaker. In which country are we, Madam Speaker? I'm not secure. I don't know if I will be elected by the numbers that elected me in the last elections because we are losing huge numbers.
I'll give you another 2 minutes so that you may finalize.
Okay, even before I finalize, Madam Speaker, because I'm even becoming a bit emotional, you know, I'm a victim of banditry, Madam Speaker. I'm one woman who was wedded traditionally in Turkana, and you know what it means to be wedded traditionally. Herds of cattle that were given to my kinsmen, Madam Speaker, not even a single one can be traced in our yards. It went to West Pokot, Madam Speaker. Yeah? It went to West Pokot County, Madam Speaker. So if people of our stature are victims, so you can imagine that Turkana person there, down there. Madam Speaker, I want to donate this time to honorable members herein to support this motion. And because I have all my kinsmen in here, let me donate this motion to nearby counties first as we go.
You are out of order, member for member for Turkana. There is time for them to speak. So first of all, the rules do not allow you to do that, but I want to assure you that they'll have their time so that they can contribute to this motion. Honorable members, I would like to give this to the Honorable Mark Nyamita, member for Uriri.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First of all, I want to say I don't come from a pastoral community. I know the mover of this motion is saying that you donate it to your neighbors first. But we have heard you, we hear your emotions. And I don't know how it feels when the dowry that was paid for you is now not there, it's been taken. But Madam Speaker, I just want to urge, I know there's a crisis. Yesterday I was watching the Cabinet Secretary for Interior, who's leading the operations in this area. And his sentiments sort of tie to what my colleague member for Turkana is talking about, that this thing has actually moved from cattle rustling to terrorism. And I just want to urge the government that we cannot continue to sit pretty when lives are being lost, especially lives. But I also want to urge our people in the pastoral community to slightly elevate the value of life, human life over cattle. In fact, I'm a bit disappointed. The honorable member was proceeding very well, but to say that she's more worried about her votes, the number of votes that she got, whether she's going to get them, is really trying to belittle the issue at hand. The situation in Turkana, other than the drought that is ravaging the country, I was watching on TV yesterday, Madam Speaker. Leave alone livestock, people are dying. When you have children, I was reading even in a newspaper today that someone has chased away students from school and occupied it with his 2 wives. It is a very, very sad sort of a situation. And I actually think the government needs to give it a bit more attention. One of the things is that in that community, which is what I'm continuing to urge, even in my county, Madam Speaker, one of my neighbors, in fact, one of my colleagues, one time, who is the highest person who was on record having married with the most number of cattle. He carried almost about 500 head of cattle to just marry a lady in our village. In fact, it was even trouble. I just wanted to adopt, even in my community, to marry you must take cattle. But maybe we adopt other things. We can use money. We can use other means of payment. So that the moment we detach value from the cattle and give more value to human life, I think that is, because what is a dispute? Someone's cattle has been taken, someone's cows have been taken, it's just basically about animals. And that is what is leading to the loss of life. So I think that is one thing that we need to do. But I just want to urge the government that more efforts. This country at large, not only the pastoral community, is facing a very serious crisis in the near future, emanating from this drought that we are currently experiencing. These guys are going to be having double tragedy. And I feel you, and I want to urge my colleagues, if there is anything that we can be able to do, if they can take the whole of the military to that particular area to wipe out all those people. And it would be very sad if the allegations that my colleague is talking about are serious, that there could be someone elected and is sitting in this house or the Senate, the house that is supposed to be protecting Kenyans, the house of last resort for many people out there, that there would be someone in this particular house who is using his own money to continue funding. And I just want to urge my sister that as you substantiate, and if you have any evidence, I urge that the next time when you're talking on the floor of the House, you come with that evidence on this floor of the House so that we deal with facts that are here. Or other than reporting it to the police, it would be very sad so that we call out that particular member or members if they are sitting with us here as we are debating serious issues of national importance, whereas at the back end, they are funding the killing of other people and messing of other people's livelihoods. It would be extremely sad, especially now that this is the house that Kenyans actually look up to. I want to urge the government, if it is indeed true that we are to believe what the Cabinet Secretary spoke about, that this thing has moved to terrorism, then we need to upgrade the response from cattle rustling, and the force that has been deployed in that particular region should match a force that is now combating terrorism in this country. So that we deal with it. The president spoke about it. It's almost 2 weeks. It's almost going to a month. And people are still crying. In fact, the cries are even louder. Can they increase a force that now can deal with the issues in that particular area? And I feel you, my sister, and I just want to urge my colleague that my colleagues in this house, that let's all forget about our areas for once and consider our sisters and our people coming from the cattle rustling areas, and let's see what can be done. Can the government begin to also look at other economic activities that can, the communities in those areas can be involved in, so that we don't end up with people killing each other? And this is a thing that has been on almost from the time of independence. And I just want to say I am here to support you. If there's anything that we can do, let us join our sister. And I move to support that motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Member for Riri. The Honorable Florence Gematia, the women member for Baringo County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First of all, I want to thank my sister, Honorable Cecilia, for the good work and this motion that is before us in the floor of the House. I must say that I am with you 100%, and this is something that we members from the affected regions have been crying loud. And I also want to thank the floor and the House in general for taking time and considering this as a support for us in the Kerio Valley region. Madam Speaker, I must say from the onset that I come from Baringo. I consider Baringo as one of the manufacturers of bandits. As a member of Baringo County, I speak here with authority that that is where most of this problem has been emanating from. We have one constituency in my county, Madam Speaker, that has been the only denominator of bandits. It's called Tiati. And I'm not sorry to say that because it's true. When I was a member, when I was doing my campaigns, and I have been all through as a member of parliament, taking any keen interest in stopping this behavior. Madam Speaker, when terrorism was associated with Somaliland and Somalis and the Islam, they stood firm and they condemned it. When Mongiki were terrorizing everyone in this country, the Kikuyu community stood firm and said it is enough because it was associated with them. Today, there is a community called the Pokots who have vehemently refused to condemn this menace. They are the ones who are terrorizing everyone. Every neighbor who is within Pokot is crying. The Samburis are crying. Laikipia is crying. Turkanas are crying. The Tugans, Elgeyo Marakwet, just because you didn't choose to be a neighbor over Pokot. I want to speak with authority that I'm speaking for the next generation. This is a menace that we must do it and deal with it today. I am also speaking as a member of parliament and a member of this government. I voted for the Kenya Kwanza government. And every time I see myself standing on the floor defending, I also feel that I did and participated in creating a government that should solve the problem that is at hand. One of the problems in Baringo County today, children are not able to go to school. I thank the president for ordering the KDFs and other military and security agencies to deal with these bandits. But I want to support my sister that it is not true. Whatever thing is happening is something that all of us are actually wondering. As much as we are using the coffers money, and members of parliament, please, this is the money that is being spent from the people of Kenya, and it must show us results. We cannot at any moment be watching when schools are not opening. I have more than 7 schools that was closed when bandits raided schools. On CS Kindiki yesterday, before the television, gave a whole horror that there's one school called Ngelecha Primary School in Baringo South, that bandits went, raided the school. This bandit has several wives. Wife number 1 is in class 8. Class 7 and class 6 is putting all his children. The school compound is becoming his cow bomber. This is Kenya. I am a victim of bandits. And every time I speak from, it is really painful. I have lost relatives. I am here to condemn this menace with all power that can be given to me, that this is the only time we can stand up as members of parliament and say no. It is true. Some of us are actually the perpetrators and the beneficiaries of this menace, and they are sitting in this floor of the house. I might not substantiate now, but every time you want this, I will give you. And I know. And I don't speak from, I speak from the point of information and knowledge. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Jared Okello, member for Nyando.
I thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity, and I align myself with the quest by the Turkana representative raising this pertinent issue. Honorable Speaker, banditry is not a new phenomenon in this country. It began many years ago. It has refused to dissipate, and the government seems to be doing just lip service. I'm saying lip service because when there was something akin to a prayer in Nakuru, the leaders did implore upon the administration to send the military to these bandit-prone areas. Madam Speaker, the following day, even without the approval of this House, we saw tankers getting into Turkana and Samburu areas. That was a mere PR exercise, Honorable Speaker. Because I want to believe when people who are indoctrinated into banditry see real intervention by the military, they would run to Sudan. They would run to Somalia. They will not stage additional protests and carry out cattle rustling within this country. And therefore, I say that what we saw was a mere PR exercise, Madam Speaker. Now, as our government is busy carrying out PR exercises, people are losing lives. And now this problem has actually metamorphosed into something else, akin to cultish movement. Yesterday, a video went viral, even though, Madam Speaker, you have read something around it, but there was something that young people and young girls are having their private parts being chopped off, in addition to what they have been subjected to, Madam Speaker. It is said insecurity anywhere within our territorial boundaries is insecurity everywhere, the epicenter and the periphery alike. And therefore, we cannot sit pretty in this house, listening to lamentations by people from the north every time about insecurity. If we have a government that has failed to tame a bandit, just a bandit, this is a government that should be home yesterday, so that a proactive government, responsive to the plight of the people, can be put into office, Madam Speaker. So when our colleagues from Turkana speak, when our colleagues from Baringo speak, Samburu speak, it is upon all of us to rally behind them. Because what if they defeat government in areas where they live? They will be in Nyando constituency tomorrow. And therefore, this is not a problem that we can leave in the hands of those who are suffering. Our country must be rallied behind this cause universally. And we have to tackle it on land, air, and sea, if possible, so that these bandits can be subjected to justice. Madam Speaker, I know that even though the military carried out a PR stunt, immediately they landed in those areas. Some of the machines they are using, some of the trucks that they are using are so rickety that they only landed and became demobilized on the same day. One time, the Interior Cabinet Secretary, a man that we all have lots of respect for, was addressing a public baraza in a place, and bandits were actually burning people's houses less than a kilometer away. That is the minister in charge of security. If I was the minister, I can tell you nothing like that can ever happen. That I'm addressing a public baraza and you are burning homes. I will personally go in and eradicate you and neutralize all of them. And therefore, I'm challenging these people. This is not a laughing matter, Madam Speaker. Let us all rally behind, as leadership of this House, behind our people, so that this can be resolved once and for all. And if this government has failed the way they have, can they step aside so that Azimio gets into office and correct all the wrongs that have been perpetuated for way too long? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Timothy Toroi Teach, member for Marakwet West.
Madam Speaker, I wish to be protected from Honorable Wanjala. Madam Speaker, thank you for giving me an opportunity to contribute on this very important motion. And I want to thank my sister for bringing this very important motion before the floor of this House. Madam Speaker, governments are elected into office to protect property and the lives of its people. Madam Speaker, it is unfortunate that since independence, the people of Kerio Valley, the people of conflict-prone zones, have been neglected by successive regimes in this country. Madam Speaker, as we speak, the entire Kerio Valley, the entire conflict-prone areas is under the command of militia. Madam Speaker, the area of Tiati, Turkana, part of Marakwet, Samburu, Laikipia, they are living in medieval times. Those are areas that they have no infrastructure, there are no roads, there are no schools, there are no hospitals, they are living in the dark ages. Madam Speaker, military intervention is good, but that is a short-term measure. In fact, in my opinion, we need deliberate civilization in that area. Madam Speaker, that is an area that still lives in a pre-colonial era in this country. Madam Speaker, we allowed the recent intervention by the president. But again, we need a proper military intervention as envisaged under Article 241(3) of the Constitution. Madam Speaker, the recent intervention by KDF, we are being told that the KDF is under the command of the police. In my opinion, that is very unfortunate. We need a proper military intervention as was seen in the Sabot Land Defense Force. Madam Speaker, KDF alone managed to wipe out the SLDF by wiping out Matakwe and the team. So, Madam Speaker, it is not a very easy thing that we think we can be able to just solve through military intervention. Madam Speaker, this government should form a serious commission of inquiry to inquire into the problem that is facing the people of Kerio Valley and the entire conflict zones. Because the problem is historical, the problem is no longer about banditry and cattle rustling, it is becoming or mutating to expansionism. And that is the biggest problem that we have as we speak. So, Madam Speaker, secondly, I agree with my colleague, Oshimwe Chematia from Baringo, that these people need to be classified as terrorists. These are not bandits. The cabinet or the president should convene a National Security Council meeting and have the bandits be declared as terrorists and be dealt as such in accordance with the laws of this country. So, Madam Speaker, in short, in as much as we have the KDF who have gone to that region to solve the conflict, we need a long-term solution in Kerio Valley. Madam Speaker, the reason why a certain community is blamed for initiating this problem is because of exposure. They need to be exposed, and that area needs to be developed in its totality because it has been left out by the government for quite a long period of time. So, Madam Speaker, we need a commission of inquiry to properly investigate the matters affecting the people in Kerio Valley. Secondly, we need proper disarmament. At what age, can you imagine people wielding guns? And we have legislation in this country protecting our people from being killed. Madam Speaker, I beg to support this motion in totality, and we pray that we shall get, in the fullness of time, we shall get a lasting solution in Kerio Valley. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Fatuma Mohammed, member for Migori County. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity you've given me to contribute to this. First, I want to start by congratulating my sister and feeling the pain that you feel. For you to have taken, even for you to bring this motion here is already a risk for her. And I'm praying for you that may Allah protect you, that they don't get to you. They are watching you now, saying this one is interfering with our business. And I'm very sure, as a woman, you cannot come here and yell what you know it is not true. For sure, there must be some truth in what she has said about whoever is financing this. I may not be aware who that person is, but I beg that we do listen to her
And if there's something that this government can do, which I believe they have opportunity to do something, consider her statement, protect her, and get the truth. This is a woman speaking. This is a mother speaking. Honestly, it is painful, and she is a daughter. This country, I was born many years back, but I remember when Moi was the president, there were some people who were called shifters. Moi made an order. Within 40 minutes, there's no human being that was left called a shifter. What government are we having today? The Pokot population is merely 621,000. You can interview each one of them and know who a bandit is. Either the government is not concerned, or the government is not serious about this. And if the government cannot take it up to them, then we as the women, as the wives, as the daughters, as the mothers, as the people who get affected most, we will take to the streets and we will find a solution to this, because the government is taking this for granted. This is a major issue. This is seriously a major issue. When my sister talked here about her votes, she didn't mean that she wants them to vote her back. She merely meant that the population that voted for her, she is losing a big population. That is exactly what she meant. She is here to talk on behalf of the people who voted her. She's talking as a mother of this country, so am I. Can this government tell us they are not able to take care of their own people who are fighting within? And the extras who are outside there, the Al-Shabaab, all those people who are terrorists, are watching and saying, what a country we are, that our own war amongst us, we cannot handle. And they're saying this is a weak country and we are becoming a target. We are showing that we are not able to take care of our people. And so the bad people outside are saying, we are soon going for this country. And within a minute, I saw a joke sometimes from Uganda that that person can take this country within 3 minutes. And I'm seeing this country, within a second, the bad people can take us. If we cannot take care of such a small community, it doesn't affect me in Migori County. I sleep with my doors open. We don't do this kind of things. The only thing that worries me is my fish, if at all it will cross to Uganda. But I'm feeling what she is feeling. There is something that the country can do about this. I was born a small girl. I saw it happening. I am growing old. I have gray hair, and I'm still seeing this happening. Clearly, this has nothing to do with cattle rustling. And if the country is serious, if the leadership of this country is serious, they will get the root problem. We know that they've been marginalized for long. We know that education, they are still behind. We know that they're not taken care of. I don't know their voting pattern if it has anything to do with this. But I believe by the end of the day, these people are Kenyans. These people pay taxes. These people deserve to be given security just as people of Migori are enjoying their security. Please, the government, listen to the women, listen to this woman and feel her pain. And please do something about this community. Not only for the women, even the men are losing their daughters, they're losing their wives. And the future generation is at stake. I beg that if there's anything, even if it means donating our salaries, if the country doesn't have money, take our salaries and do something to help the people who are suffering. It pains me as a woman. It pains me as a mother. It pains me as a taxpayer. And I'm speaking to the government. Do something, or we find a way as women, and we will do something. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Phyllis Barto, member for Moiben constituency.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also rise to join my colleagues in the debate on the issue of banditry in Turkana. I support my colleague, county women representative from Turkana, for this very emotive issue. Madam Speaker, the Constitution, Chapter 14, Article 238, talks about national security. It is the duty of government to provide and protect its people internally and from external threats. But, Madam Speaker, the issue of insecurity in the regions mentioned, Turkana, Samburu, Laikipia, Baringo, and Elgeyo Marakwet, have become a perennial problem. Until now, we don't understand when this problem is going to be put to rest. I listened to the County Women Rep Turkana presenting this issue very emotionally. And some of our colleagues were trying to make fun and even telling her not to mention what she was saying. A member of parliament represents people, represents a constituency, a county. So when she brings an issue to the floor of parliament, she knows where the shoe pinches. She has talked about schools being closed in our constituency. At this time in Kenya, we are implementing the CBC curriculum. We have the junior secondary schools. Every part of Kenya is busy trying to see that we get it right. When we close schools in some other parts of Kenya, what are we trying to say? What will happen to those children in those particular regions? Who will fight for them? They are part of Kenya. Something has to be done. She has talked about police officers. She has mentioned over 50 of them who have lost their lives. These are the people who are supposed to be giving protection. When those ones who are supposed to be protecting the people are under threat, who will fight for the people in these regions? Madam Speaker, I happen to be, as a neighbor of this county, Madam Speaker, Moiben borders, or is a neighbor of Elgeyo Marakwet and Trans Nzoia and Baringo and Turkana and Samburu. In 2007, Madam Speaker, during the post-election violence, I happened to be in that region. That was in Uasin Gishu. I was in South Africa one time when the issue of war broke, the issue of Kwere, where Africans were fighting their fellow Africans from other African countries. And Madam Speaker, it is not something very nice. War is bad. And especially when a woman speaks about war, it is very painful. When war breaks, it affects mothers, it affects children. Something has to be done. We need to address this issue in totality. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Emathe, member for Turkana Central. I want to take that again. Emathe, the Honorable Emathe, member for Turkana. Joseph Emathe, member for Turkana Central.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I want to thank you so much for this opportunity and also to thank my women rep for Turkana County. And this is very, very handy at a discussion or a debate that has come at the right time. And a time has come, Madam Speaker, for us to listen to each other as a country. A time has come when we must call a spade a spade. And Madam Speaker, when members here were requesting or asking for, for a member to substantiate a statement or a comment that one was making, to me, it's like they are living in our own world. They are not in Kenya. Madam Speaker, the history of cattle rustling, the history of cattle theft, the history of all that is happening in the North Rift has been documented. It is in record. Kenyans all over are aware that Kerio Valley, Sukuta Valley is a place you can enter, but you may not come out alive. This is where bandits stay. They have turned themselves into terrorists, and they have turned themselves into another IBC, trying to do some They have turned themselves into another IBC, trying to do some forceful delineation of boundaries by themselves. Madam Speaker, I once worked...
Honorable Emathe, there is a small problem with the mic.
Okay.
Nobody is interfering with what you're saying, so you may proceed.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. I once worked in Kuria East, where Honorable Kitayama comes from. And I took a county commissioner of that place to Turkana. That man became a regional commissioner later, and I took that man together with the district peace committee all the way from Kuria East, and we took the route that took us to Tot. We crossed to Koloa, we went to Tiati, we slept in Kapedo, and we went to Lomelo, Madam Speaker. The horrible situation in Lomelo made the county commissioner to cry, Madam Speaker, because the chief in that place, first of all, had missed to go for his salary for 3 months. Number two, the food he was eating is something that cannot be eaten by anybody, an employee of this country. Everyone cried. We left the place with hearts broken, and that was in 2010. Madam Speaker, we went to Kainuk. We held a meeting there with the Peace Committee. I will need time, Madam Speaker, to exhaust what I have, because this is a moment to tell the truth and for Kenyans to know that we are various, we are suffering. So, Madam Speaker, a place between Kapedo and Lokori, 105 kilometers, is not inhabited. It is a no man's land. That is a whole area inside Turkana East, not inhabited. It is a place where the Pokots do their issues of cattle theft, cattle rustling, and all that appertains. Madam Speaker, I have lost relatives. I have lost my first uncle. I have lost sisters from cattle rustling, from cattle theft, close relatives, Madam Speaker. And as at now, the issue of vulnerability is coupled with how we are losing, or the rate at which we are losing cattle. Today you wake up, you are rich. In the next 1 minute or 1 hour, you are poor. Now, drought is there. The rate at which we are able to absorb the shocks of vulnerability is too high. Schools have been closed. Some have even been burnt. by these Pokots. And Madam Speaker, when we talk about illiteracy rates in these areas, poverty index in these places, it is one of the highest in this country. I want to applaud our president, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, for initiating the operation. As it is now, yes, we are convinced that it's going to take long, and they are going to stay in those areas, in those corridors. However, there are continued reports that banditry is still going on. Yesterday, a place near Kainuk was raided. The other day, Lomelo was set ablaze by the Pokot. We hear other thefts in Samburu that are going on. In fact, this week, we have heard more than 4. Kainuk, another time, was again a no-go zone. The Pokots were engaging the army that is doing an operation there in a fierce battle, exchange of fire.
Thank you, Honorable Mathe. You may have noticed that you got extra 2 minutes because of the disruption with the mic. So your time is up. The Honorable Ariko.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. I stand here as a member of representative for the great people of Turkana South. Madam Speaker, Turkana South is the most affected sub-county. Madam Speaker, please protect me. My colleagues are making noise. Madam Speaker, I just want to echo the motion by my women rep that cattle rustling has become a problem in Kenya. Madam Speaker, this phenomenon involves both inter and intra-ethnic as well as cross-border raids for livestock. Madam Speaker, we need to realize that cattle rustling has evolved. It has moved from the time of being cultural practice. Now it has been modernized to become a strategy to do expansion in other territories. Madam Speaker, a classic example, and let me just state very clearly that in the last 3 consecutive days, my constituency has been raided by my neighbors' Pokots. Yesterday, the 3 consecutive days, as I said, the Pokots raided Kakong. The next day, they raided Lokwar. And yesterday, they raided Nakwamuru. And all these animals were driven to Keses, a place we call as Turkana Hangilogitai. These animals were divided into 3. One group, the livestock were driven to Hangilogitai, where they call it Keses. The second team went to Kadengoi, the current settlement for Pokots, that is inside Turkana South. The other one went to Ombolion, a place where I consider my grandfather's home. Madam Speaker, whatever the government has done, I believe it is something that His Excellency Dr. William Ruto stated in Ahale, where I hosted him when he was launching the drought relief. During that time, Madam Speaker, the president was explicit. He stated very clearly that he wants to end cattle rustling. Unfortunately, that same day, The Pokot raided Turkana East. The Pokot raided Marakwet West. Same time. Madam Speaker, I want to believe that the previous government was not serious to handle this menace of cattle rustling. The previous government either were ignoring the matter. The previous government, I believe, compromised the situation. Madam Speaker, we've been having so many investments by peace actors to address this issue of conflict in the northwest of Kenya. They have invested a lot of money. But I believe this, Madam Speaker, are the smooth strategy to address this issue of insecurity. Smooth strategy in the sense that it is not addressing the actual problem we are experiencing as conflict banditry zones. Madam Speaker, personally as a representative, I have the authority of the people of Turkana South. I want to request the government, before we have any discussion on peace between Pokot and Turkana, I need Pokot to go back to their territory so that we can have a conversation. You cannot end a conflict when the person in conflict with you is inside your house. It cannot happen, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, to finalize this, in Uganda, you cannot graze in Uganda. And
I give you a minute.
Minutes, Madam Speaker.
1 minute, Honorable Member for Turkana South.
Madam Speaker, our colleagues, the Pokots, do have dual citizenship. They do not need permission to graze in Uganda. The moment the government gave out an ultimatum of 3 days, they moved to Uganda. Currently, the Pokots are in Kademwe with so many guns. Unfortunately, the KDF is stationed in Kainuk. They are not doing anything. These Pokots are shooting KDF. Even yesterday, the KDF tried to follow these animals. Unfortunately, they could not get all the animals. They got almost 20% of the animals. So please, Madam Speaker, the government has to do something different.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Marwa, a member for Kuria East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Many of the members of parliament here who have served in Kuria in the past, and any other public servant who has served in Kuria, Madam Speaker, will tell you that Kuria used to have a big problem of cattle rustling, a very big problem. And this is a problem that had been there for many years. We were fighting and engaging in cattle rustling with the Kipsigis, with the Maasai, and with the Maasai, different sub-clans of the Maasai, probably 5 different. And then we are also engaging with the Kipsigis, and then on this other end, we're also engaging within ourselves, the 4 clans that are in Kuria, and also with Tanzania. So we used to have an extremely complex problem. Madam Speaker, it took the resolve of the people of Kuria themselves, and that was not an easy matter. 2007, when this matter was very, very hot in Kuria, I lost an election because I thought talking against it is something that would earn me more marks. Actually, I lost that election. 2013, I again lost an election because I was the only candidate who was speaking against cattle rustling. Madam Speaker, 2017, we had lost enough lives and more people thought that maybe there is a point in this young man, let's listen to him. I got elected in 2017. And I want to thank the current president, because when he came 2017 after the elections, and I told him that this matter of cattle rustling must end in Kuria, he gave us support when he was a deputy president at that time. What am I trying to say, Madam Speaker? It must take our leaders, the Pokot, the Turkana, all the people who are involved in this matter, it must take them courage to say no to this menace. If you don't do it, and I want to assure you, I am a living example. If you don't do it, forget about these votes. If you don't say no and tell your people that you don't support it, it will continue. And let me tell you, my brothers and sisters, this is not a matter that is solved for you by external forces. It is not a matter that will be solved for you by government. It is not a matter that is going to be solved for you by the Ministry of Interior. It is not a matter that you will bring tanks to solve for you. It will not end. It must come from yourselves, and you must say no to this. And it is us leaders who fear to be voted out, and therefore we encourage this siege mentality. We get compromised by the very, very thugs who have no business with peace. They don't want peace. Madam Speaker, it will shock you that a cow that would ordinarily fetch 40,000, 50,000, 100,000 in the open market, actually, if you break it down, the person who is doing the raiding probably gets only 500 shillings or 1,000 shillings. Somebody in between there is making the markup. And at the end of it all, the person losing is the one who has been raided, and the cattle has left. So this whole chain of activity benefits no one. And that is why I want to ask and implore my colleagues. Just stand up and say no to cattle rustling. It will go away. You must do it yourselves. Be you Pokot, just say no. Be you Turukana, say no. Whoever it is that you are, just say no to this thing. Those that want to vote for you, you'll be surprised. In the last 5 years, our mothers in my constituency, the children that have been born between the ages of 5 and below are so many. Why? Because now our mothers are able to sleep in Korea. And this is something that I have experienced, and I know that if all of us were to take it in this trajectory, it will solve the problems that all of us are going through. So I support you, my sister. It is not an error that we should continue having this kind of problems. And Madam Speaker, let me also conclude by saying, government should also develop these areas. You cannot withhold development.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Lillian Gogo, member for Rangwe.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. Allow me to also add my voice and the people of Rangwe to this matter that is of national concern, and want to appreciate the Honorable member from Turkana who's brought this matter to the floor of the House. Really, women leaders look at it differently in terms of loss of life, in terms of people being displaced, and general instability and insecurity in the places where they are domiciled. I wouldn't say, Honorable Speaker, that the county where I come from, there is cattle rustling. But anything that happens to one of us as Kenyans happens to all of us. And it is unfortunate that when it is being mentioned that perpetrators, people who encourage, part of them come from this very own institution that is most respected, the August House. They are people who are grumbling. But it is true that leadership gives direction on what happens in where they come from. And one honorable member from Korea just said that when they made a bold decision to decide to bring to a stop the matter of cattle rustling, it happened. And it is our leaders, Honorable Speaker, who at times encourage evils to happen where we come from. For the benefit of feeling important, for the benefit of people depending on us, for the benefit of wanting ourselves to be held in a manner as if we are gods, this must be condemned in the strongest terms. We should be custodians of life. We should be custodians of peaceful coexistence with our neighbors, Honorable Speaker. And as I listen to members who come from these areas painfully narrate what is happening there, it is heart-wrenching, Honorable Speaker, that at this time, such things can still happen in this country. And in which country is this that even KDF is deployed and people are still daring our defense forces that are supposed to guard our borders, Honorable Speaker? I think there is something we need to do soul searching in this country. And anywhere there is war, anywhere there is lack of peace, it is women and children who suffer and people who have disabilities. I really want to encourage leaders and leadership from these places that they sit down and speak to their communities. What is it that is in a cow? What is it, Honorable Speaker, that is in wealth, that we lose lives and gain so much in terms of wealth, Honorable Speaker? What is it that we will carry to our graves, that we will have other Kenyans suffer, Honorable Speaker, to the extent that we want to own cattle, we want to own goats and sheep? What is it? What is it? What is it that is happening to this country? It is not about gender-based violence. It is not about, Honorable Speaker, teenage pregnancies. It is not about HIV and AIDS. And somebody still is bringing to this country death by way of people fighting over places for grazing cattle, fighting over cattle, fighting over how much cattle one owns. And I'm even told that in this country, within Kenya, there is no man's land for practicing evil in this century, Honorable Speaker. I should think, and I must emphasize, Honorable Speaker, that it is time Kenya got back into seriousness. Kenya has for the longest, Honorable Speaker, been the big brother in the African region, especially East Africa. And when in the floor, in this plenary, Honorable Speaker, we discuss disgusting things, Honorable Speaker, that brings down the name of Kenya, I should think as a mother, I should think as a member of this august house, that we need to embarrass ourselves and call ourselves dishonorable when we are part of the persons who propagate these things, Honorable Speaker. I want to add my voice to it, and I want to say that it is high time that this matter is discussed and looked at with the seriousness that it deserves and brought to a complete halt. Such are the times I remember Michuki, that when Mungiki was a menace in this country, he brought it to a halt once and for all. I thank you.
Very well. The Honorable Bowen, member for Marakwet.
Thank you, Honorable Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to air my voice on this issue of insecurity. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the Member of Parliament for Turkana, Women Rep, for bringing this issue. Madam Speaker, I'm serving my third term in this House. The issue of insecurity we discussed since I came to this Parliament. The issue of insecurity in Kerio Valley and the entire North Rift, Madam Speaker, it is something which has been going on for many years. Madam Speaker, let me say this, that the Kenya Kwanza government, led by His Excellency the President, Madam Speaker, went out seeking votes to the people of North Rift on one issue only. The pastoralists of North Rift, Elgeyo Marakwet, the Pokot, the Turkana, they don't know even this bottom-up economic model. These are people, Madam Speaker, who are seeking the top-down issue of insecurity. These are people who are crying that the police on the ground, they are unable to provide them with security. They are seeking the intervention of the president from the top to sort out these issues on the ground, Madam Speaker. The issue of insecurity cannot, the bottom up cannot apply. Madam Speaker, as we speak, this House some weeks ago were informed about KDF going to help police in Kerio Valley. It's a very good idea. We all support as leaders. But Madam Speaker, we are saying it is too late. We have lost so many people. I have so many widows, so many orphans. Madam Speaker, I said one time in this House and in many other forums that we have taken our KDF to Somali. We have taken our KDF to DR Congo. We have taken elsewhere outside this country to provide peace. But we are going out to seek peace for other people when we don't have peace in our country. It is high time, Madam Speaker, that we are saying, as members of parliament from North Rift, that all the police officers who are there to be removed and that area to be, KDF to be deployed and deployed permanently. Madam Speaker, the people who are killing our women and children in Kerio Valley are police. If you look at the bullets, the spent cartridges, it is written Government of Kenya, GOK, Madam Speaker. The banditry in Kerio Valley is escalated by police who are selling these bullets to the bandits. They are collaborators, Madam Speaker. We are not longer talking about normal bandits. We are talking about criminals enterprise, where there is a commercialization part of it. There are people who benefit out of this cat rustlers. Where do these animals go? That is the question what we are seeking. Madam Speaker, in Kerio Valley, there are people who are not interested about livestock. They are interested about the business of arms and ammunition. Those are the people the government should be looking to those people. The financiers. Why is it that the government, with all the intelligence officers, they are not able to track these people? Madam Speaker, I want to say this. The issue of treating these people and calling them cat rustlers, we must stop. These are robbers, these are criminals, and they must be treated, Madam Speaker, like those robbers who are robbing other people, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we are seeking to amend some sections of these security laws to have these people as treated as terrorists, they are robbers, and they are criminals, and they should be punished. Madam Speaker, I want to support my colleague here that we are going to unite against all bandits in Kerio Valley.
Thank you. The Honorable Nanok, member for Turkana West. Please trace the member for Turkana West and give him the mic.
I'm here. Oh. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I arise to join my colleagues that have already debated on this motion, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, just as a point of information, if you look even at the attendance now of this House, Madam Speaker, the seriousness of the matters touching the North is actually a problem. The number of members who are debating this motion, who are present, who are listening, who are contributing, Madam Speaker, is wanting. This is how the North of this country has been relegated. And that is why matters that touch this part of the country cannot receive the due attention. But let me thank those who are here and want to thank profusely our brothers and sisters who don't come from this region of the North, but have taken their time to listen, to understand the challenges that we go through. Mr. Speaker, we must condemn banditry. We must condemn, and I condemn in the strongest terms possible, cattle rustling. But what we are dealing with, Mr. Speaker, has gone beyond that. I was in the committee, I was a friend to the Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations, who are having a joint sitting with their counterparts Interior, and they invited the CS Interior and Defense, discussing about this matter. I went to that meeting wanting to hear the progress report of the operation that is going on in the North Rift. I did not get a report. There was no feedback that was given. Instead, matters of law were the ones that were being canvassed in that discussion, Mr. Speaker. It cannot be that way. We cannot play with the lives of people. We cannot play with the livelihoods of the people in the North Rift by law or by arguments, as I have heard some members argue here. Mr. Speaker, the crux of the matter in the North Rift is on land. It is an expansionist agenda. Mr. Speaker, in the name of grazing lands, in the name of watering lands, in the name of seeking water and grass for these animals, something else has cropped up. And I appreciate that the CS Interior has come to grips with this issue. It is going beyond all those terminologies that we are using here. It is not cattle rustling, it is not banditry, it is going into terrorism. And you know what terror does, Mr. Speaker? It means you are kept on your toes permanently. The issue here is about displacing the people who live in these areas that are disturbed, that are lacking peace as it is now. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to ask my fellow leaders in this House, let us embrace progressive lifestyle that is accorded to us by education, by allowing interactions between Kenyans, by being peaceful. Let us preach the gospel of peace between our people. But where, Mr. Speaker, you hear community leaders threatening, using words like, we will deal with you, when you hear leaders commenting that we are going to give you the double dose of what you are giving or what you are receiving, then you have reason to fear. Then you have reason to say it is going beyond the needs of the people. Mr. Speaker, the operation must succeed. The operation must succeed, Mr. Speaker. We support the operation, and the Minister for Interior and Defense must not look back. They must succeed. That is the order by the President, and that is what we wish to see for the people of the North Rift. Mr. Speaker, this operation must be driven by intelligence. Let us not drive this operation the way we've done others, because it is not the first kind of operation, Mr. Speaker.
Very well, and thank you for the contributions. Next is Honorable Caroline Ngeleche, Elgeyo Marakwet.
Shukran, Bwana Spika. Mimi nitaomba niongee kwa Kiswahili, isipokuwa Kiswahili yangu ni ile inaitwa kukumkia ile cocktail. Iko Kiswahili mufti, Kiswahili sanifu, Kiswahili fasaha na hata Kiswahili kalenjin, lakini nitaongea hivyo kusudi watu wangu wa Elgeyo Marakwet wapate kuelewa ile ninayochangia. Mimi hapa nataka kuunga mkono dadangu Cecilia kutoka kaunti ya Turkana. Mr. Speaker, Bwana Speaker, ukiangalia hii banditry ama hii wizi wa mifugo katika bonde la Kerio imeleta maafa mengi sana. Kama Elgeyo Marakwet kwa mwaka huu tangu Januari 20 watu zaidi ya 20 wamezikwa, wakiwemo watoto, kina mama na hata watu wakongwe. Bwana Speaker, hili janga ni kitu ya aibu sana katika bunge letu tunapoendelea kuongelea, kwa sababu saizi dunia mzima imeendelea, watu wauani, watu wanyang'anyani mifugo, emaciated animals. Watu saizi wanaongelea maneno ya climate change, technology, cyber na vitu zingine ambayo imeendelea katika dunia hii, lakini pale sisi bado tunalia sana. Mimi ni women rep wa Elgeyo Marakwet County. Pale Elgeyo Marakwet County sisi tuko na baraka. Ardhi yetu ni nzuri na inaweza zalisha mazao ya kulisha sisi. Lakini kila ujao mimi nikikutana na Mheshimiwa Rais, mimi kila siku ninaomba tu, namwambia unisaidie relief food. Sababu ni hii, kwa miaka 5 imepita, watu wa bonde la Kerio, Elgeyo Marakwet hawajaweza kupanda na kuvuna. Kwa sababu wale majangili wana cross pale River Kerio na kuwavamia wanapofanya kazi zao. Na saa zingine wengine kabisa wamemea pembe. Wanangojea watu wapande watermelons, wapande nyanya, alafu wanalete mifugo yao. Na nimewauliza wao mara mingi, kwa nini mkija kuchunga mnakuja na bunduki? Wanasema ng'ombe iwezi kuchungwa na fimbo. Bwana Spika, pale sisi tumesononeka sana. Kuna mashule ambaye haina wanafunzi tena kama Kerio Valley Secondary School. Wanafunzi walihama kwa sababu ya hiyo shida insecurity. Kwa saa hizi tunapoongea, watu wengi pale wamekuwa wagonjwa wa kiakili na mawazo. Huwezi kushinda ukiendelea kuwaza kama Mkenya wa kawaida, ilhali haujui nini itakufanyikia kesho wewe na watoto wako. Mara mingi wa Kenya tunaongelea kuwa vijana waandikwe kazi. Wapale Kerio hawapati hata nafasi wakuja Kenya, wakuja Nairobi kuhustle. Kwa sababu wanaofia kuwa tunapotoka makwetu, wale majangili wanakuja na kuvamia kina mama zao, bibi zao na watoto pale. Wamebaki wenyewe ili kuangalia tu na kungoja waliolijua. Bwana Spika, mimi ninataka kusema hivi. Hii maneno tumeongelea sana. Na saa zingine haina goodwill ama ile watu ambao wanataka hii jambo liishe. Mimi mara nyingine kama juzi nimesikia mbunge wa Sigor Lochakaponga akiuliza anataka kujua ile ng'ombe waliuawa na polisi wadhafidhiwa lini. Nikasema heri yeye. Sisi nani atarudisha maisha ya binadamu? Kwake yeye yule mnyama ni muhimu sana kuliko maisha ya wasichana wameuawa, wasichana wadogo waliuawa juzi, kuna mzee mkongwe aliuawa juzi, lakini yeye anaweza simama tu kidete katika hii bunge na kusema anataka apate fidhia ya ng'ombe. Na hiyo ng'ombe hata haina afya, ni ng'ombe yenye hata mimi naweza kulipa mimi mwenyewe. Hiyo inamaanisha kuwa ubinadamu kwa wengine wetu imepotea kabisa. Mara mingi ukiona mheshimiwa wa Baringo Chematia akipiga kelele, mimi namuelewa. Kwa sababu pale sisi tunalia mara mingi. Tumelia na ni uchungu sana. Uchungu kuona mtu amehama kwake, si kwa sababu, na kama auelewi Bwana Spika, Baringo, Tiati ama Sigor ambapo anapoishi hakuna nyasi. So watu wa Elgeyo Marakwet hawafugi kwao kwa sababu hakuna chochote. Wao wenyewe ndio wanakuja katika ardhi yetu na kutusongesha na kuendelea kutusongesha. Tukiwauliza wanatupiga risasi. Mimi ninataka kusema tu serikali haki iangalie tu, kwa sababu sisi ni Wakenya kama wale wengine. Sisi tuko na haki ya kuishi kama wale wengine. Na pia hakuna vile tutaendelea hata kimasomo, hata tukiwapatiana free secondary education, free kila kitu, free barabara, free maji, kama hakuna security. Inafaa tu kama inawezekana basi inafika kiwango tunaweza omba tuhamishwe pia na tupelekwe kwa kambi ya wakimbizi. Tukue tu wakimbizi katika ardhi yetu, kwa sababu mahali imefika Bwana Spika, imekuwa hatuwezi tolerate anymore. Imekuwa chungu sana. Bwana Spika,
very well, I think you have delivered, and very well we had to give you that chance because you had a challenge with your card. Otherwise, the interest on this motion is high, but I will just follow the list, and I'm sure if you can spare some time for your colleagues, it will be very, very easy, and everybody will get a chance. So next on the list here is Honorable Abdul Hero of Mandela South.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. First of all, let me say I'm saddened that we are discussing this matter at a time when the entire northern Kenya and the entire country is going through a very, very difficult times, when we are facing one of the worst droughts in this country. It is also unfortunate we are discussing this matter when the regions that are affected are also going through very serious economic hardships.
Order. Honorable Peter Longapong, just stay in the House. I'm sure this will interest you. Don't go away. You may proceed, Honorable Member.
So we are discussing this matter at a time when we are facing very serious economic hardships in the region where this insecurity menace is happening. It is also unfortunate that when schools have just opened and parents are grappling with how to pay the school fees, and we are discussing as a nation on the chaos that we are facing in the JSS, that is Junior Secondary School transition, all the attention of the nation and the important time of the members of parliament is drawn to this insecurity issue. Honorable Speaker, I'm a pastoralist, and what is happening in other pastoralist areas also affects me deeply. And I must say, when we talk about security or insecurity in this region, what security are we talking about? And whose security are we talking about? And security by who? And it is for who? Those are some of the questions we need to ask ourselves. Honorable Speaker, what we are facing in this region, apart from being a national security matter and also being a community security matter, it is also a very serious economic security issue, because livestock, which is the most important economic lifestyle of the people in that region, is at the center of this. And I would like to draw the attention of Kenyans to the importance of this industry, livestock, because livestock is the one which is being battered here, and the lives of the people in this region, which depends on the livestock, is suffering as a consequence, from deaths, from physical security, and also from death as a result of human security issues that are affected because of the lack of food security, which is centered around the livestock. Honorable Speaker, livestock industry in this country contributes 13% of our total GDP. It also contributes 50% of our agriculture labor force. It supports 10 million Kenyans. Livestock industry supports 10 million Kenyans. All those pastoralists in the 25 vassal counties make up 10 million Kenyans, which is a fifth of this country. So it's a very important industry, and anybody who's targeting the livestock industry and the pastoralists living in the pastoral regions who depend on livestock, then is committing simply not the traditional banditry that we know. They are committing what I may call economic banditry on the people of that region. Honorable Speaker, I think it is time we put our acts together as a country so that this banditry menace, I don't want to call it banditry, this economic terrorism that is happening in this region is brought to a halt. Because if that region continues ailing as a result of insecurity, the entire nation will be ailing. Nobody is at peace. If the Kerio Valley, Turkana, Samburu, Pokot, and Baringo is not safe, I can assure you, Mr. Honorable Speaker, the entire country will be ailing. And therefore, I would urge the security apparatus that has been deployed in that region to be stern so that we can have a solution to this problem once and for all. In the life cycle of any insecurity issue or any conflict, it reaches a crisis point where the usual discussions doesn't work anymore. It is only the coercive power of the state that can resolve some of these issues, and I think the military should take this very seriously, and I think we will pray for our people in those regions, that the northwestern part of the region, and nobody should be spared, whether it's a leader, a government official, a military officer, or anybody who is found to be culpable in this matter should be dealt with.
The Honorable Protas Ewesit Loima.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the adjournment motion by the honorable member. Mr. Speaker, sir, the issue of insecurity in the north has been pathetic. I get to wonder whether we are in Kenya, in the North Rift, because This thing, as somebody said, has been there for many years, and nothing looks like it's not being done. Mr. Speaker, sir, the issue of insecurity in the north has caused a lot of problems in these particular areas or in areas that are affected. And some of these challenges, one is that we have lost a lot of people in the course of this banditry activity. Secondly, we have also lost properties. A lot of properties have been lost. Displacement has taken place. People have been moved from their ancestral lands to areas where it's not familiar to them. And this is actually a way to displace these people so that they cannot be able to continue with their normal livelihoods. Livelihoods have also been destroyed because animals that these people depend on are being taken away and are not being recovered. To add into that, the situation has also been witnessed in these particular areas. People lose all their parents, siblings, and all that, and they become orphans and nobody to help them. Now, I want to be told, because I'm wondering why we are suffering like this, and we are in a country that is supposed to protect lives and properties of people. We want to be told because some of the animals that we lose in these banditry activities cannot be traced. And mark you, we are within or we are in Kenya. In fact, the banditry we are experiencing between our international borders, let's say South Sudan, the Toposas there and the Turkana, Ethiopia and Uganda and others. Actually, we recover animals if they are taken by Karamoja. We follow and recover them. But animals that are taken within the counties that are being mentioned, you will never recover them. What does that tell you? It means this is a high level of business between high-level government officials, between the police, between some business cartels. That's why you are not able to trace any single animal that are stolen. If animals are stolen tomorrow, you will not even get one. Even if they do what they call rounding up of animals within the area, the animals have entered. You will not even get one of them. It means these animals, there is ready transportation. The moment they are stolen, they are driven to a specific place where trucks are waiting, and then they are loaded, and you will never get them again. And that's why Governor Natembeya was saying the Nairobi people are the ones actually benefiting because the proceeds of this cattle rustling or banditry, the animals are taken brought here to Nairobi and other outlets. Mr. Speaker, why insecurity? Why insecurity? I can tell you for sure that if you go to Turkana County, to West Pokot County, Samburu County, the police stations in those areas are empty. They are called police stations, but there are only 5 officers. A police station has between 350, not 300, 30 and 50 officers. But if you go to those police stations, there are hardly 10 police officers. It means these police officers cannot be able to secure lives and properties of people in those particular areas. And that is one cause. Secondly, most of these police officers that are sent there are people who have incapacities. They are incapacitated. Some of them have been sent there on disciplinary cases. Some of them have been sent there because they are alcoholics. Some of them have been sent there because they are drug addicts. So these are people who cannot act. Even if your animals are stolen and they pass close to their doors, they will never come out of the camp. Honorable Speaker, the operation just started the other day. That operation has even escalated banditry because, like 3 days ago, a coordinated attack happened in 3 counties at the same time. So it means there is a command center where these things are happening, and I don't know what the operation is doing there. They are just there, doing exactly nothing. So we need to know exactly what the officers are doing. And then you go and gazette 5 counties as curfew areas. And the number of officers they have displayed there or deployed there are very few. They are almost spread thinly in those counties.
Very well. Let's hear from Honorable Christine Ombaka, County Women Rep, Siaya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sorry, I have a cold, but I hope you'll hear me. Thank you very much for this opportunity, my sister, for bringing this. I want to tell you that when you cry, we also cry, because you are crying for your people who are also our people. When we see people being killed in North Rift, don't think we who don't come from there, we are happy to watch it. We feel sad, and that's why we must fight banditry in this country. Banditry has a very long history. It has been there for many, many years. And that also shows you that the government has never done anything for all these years, that banditry has been in existence. When children are killed, women are killed, men are killed, and animals are driven away, are taken away, and the government has never done anything for so many years, then the governments that have taken over successively have performed zero work. They have never protected its people. They have never supported them, because they're just simply talking and watching. So remember that we are together. Kenya is known to be a peacekeeping mission, normally takes care of other countries. Peacekeeping is known for Kenyans, and Kenyans do it so well. But when it comes to our own country, we are not able to do that. We just watch, and we are so helpless. Yet we have a system that can protect our people. What is the government doing? I'm not very good with dealing with wars and insecurity, but at least I can tell you that one thing that the government can now do is to ensure that there is a curfew at night. Let people not move. Police should be everywhere at night, and anybody who moves is arrested. That can bring it down. I think that is my knowledge about holding on and ensuring that there is protection at night, because banditry takes place at night. That is my contribution. And the last point is that it is very, very sad to see that education is going down. It has never been up anyway in North Rift, because people don't go to school. People don't have hospitals. People don't have proper food. People are just busy fighting and stealing. And you have said that it is a backward area. It has never known development. It belongs to long generation, colonial times. For how long are we going to see Turkana and North Rift generally going behind, not moving forward as we move forward and advancing? Time has come that curfew must be implemented immediately. I'm happy that the president the other day was very, very viciously instructing the Minister for Security, Professor Kindiki. I saw it on television, that he wanted him to go there and ensure that there is a stop to night fights and banditry. I hope that is going to work, but at least curfew can work for the time being. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Otherwise, we lament, we want to fight it, we want to bring it down, and I support this motion. Asante sana.
Thank you. After hearing those words from Honorable, now let's get a contribution from veteran Member of Parliament Samuel Moroto, Kapenguria.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa nafasi ili nipate kuchangia. Nataka niseme nimesikia yale ambayo wenzangu hapo wamesema. Nataka niwaeleze sisi wengine tulikuwa naongea vile mnaongea hapa, tukifikiri kwamba italete faida, ili watu wako wakati wanakuona wanaanza kupika makofi na kesho bado wataumia. Nataka tuunge mkono ile ambaye mjumbe wa Kuria alisema. Mimi natoka Kapenguria. Na katika Kapenguria tulikuwa na nyoroshana upande wa Trans Nzoia, kule Uganda, upande wa Marakwet, Turkana. Lakini kwa wakati huu usikii watu wa area hiyo, especially hapa Kapenguria, wakipikana. Tulikuwa na clashes ya 1992 wakati tulianza multiparty. Lakini ile ingine yote kuanzia 97 mpaka hata ile yenu ilikuwa kali, haiko kuingia kwetu. kwa sababu tuliketi chini na kuongea. Moi alileta kitu inaitwa Nyundu Operation. Hakuna kitu ambayo ilifanya. Ngaiseri ndio alikuwa anaongoza. Kibaki akacha na yake inaitwa Dumisha Amani Operation. Ile ami ambayo alikuwa anakonga watu Nyundu, ndio alikuwa anaenda kukaa chini na watu, kuuliza shida ni nini. Bwana Speaker, umesikia kwamba hiyo area ni sehemu ambayo iliwachwa. Kwa Kiingereza walikuwa wanasema closed district. Hata wale missionaries wenye walikuja kutusaidia kikanisa kiroho walitoka Uganda, walipita muda tukuja. Catholic wakaja wakaanza mahali inaitwa Tartar. Sasa ni national school, girls school. Na ni kwa sababu ya kanisa. Protestant kupitia SK wakapitia tena Uganda wakaja mahali inaitwa Nasoko. Sasa kuna high school. Na neno la Mungu naendelea. Na katika ile watu kuchanganyana. Sasa anasema kwamba wakati Kibaki alikuja akauliza shida ni nini? Wanaspika. Watu wanajeshi ndio wanaenda kuketi chini na watu. Ni nini nasumbua ninyi mnaingia Trans Nzoia? Haiwezi watu wa Trans Nzoia wako hapa na wanashuhudia. Wakasema kwamba ni maji wakati wa kiangazi tunaenda Trans Nzoia. Wale jeshi engineers wakakuja kuchimba maji. Wakawekea watu barabara ile inaitwa security roads. Wakaweka hema kubwa ya kutibu watu kama hospitali. Ikaleta ile uhusiano, watu walikuwa wanasema kwamba jeshi ni kukonga. Huyu jamaa kaleta watu karibu. Sasa mtu wa upande wa West Pokot hana sababu ya kwenda Trans Nzoia kwa sababu hata maji iko upande mwingine. Barabara iko upande mwingine. Na hospitali sasa imeanza kuchengwa. Pia nataka nishukuru huyu ambaye ni president sasa, wakati alikuwa deputy president. Alituita sisi wote jamii ya North Rift. Tukawa na kitu inaitwa Peace Caravan. IG Joseph akaungana na sisi pamoja na maskari yake. Tulisunguka mkutano mmoja tukiongea. Na hiyo kitu ili kwa muda ni juzi tu niliamuka kwa sababu kuna watu wapya wameingia. Hata waelewi shida ilikuwa wapi. Mtu anakuja tunafikiria sasa ukiongea hapa hivi itaanza kujulikana na watu wataanza nini kitu tafanyika. Waje tuketi chini. Nashukuru hii serikali sasa kwa sababu wamesema kwamba jeshi hawatatoka ni mpaka wafanye maendeleo. Mheshimiwa Spika, ukiangalia area kama ya Baringo. Nataka watu wa Baringo waketi chini na kuona kwamba nani alisababisha theater ikuwa vile ilivyo. Hao wanapeleka maendeleo, barabara lami, kufika mahali naitwa Loruk, wanakata hapo. Wanaleta education, mambo ya stima mpaka Loruk, wanakata hapo. Wanaleta kanisa AIC ambaye hata mimi nilikuwa na Moi ndani. Haikukanyaka upande wa chini. Nashukuru Kibaki kwa sababu Kibaki pia sasa ndiye alianza kuingiza barabara ya lami kama shule kwenda huko. Mpaka jeshi wakati Michuki alikuwa minister hapa ndio hapo ikaanza kuchengwa na jeshi ndio lichenga. Hatutaki kurudi huko nyuma. Sisi hapa tuna Kapenguri ni cosmopolitan, kila mtu yuko huko. Mkisema tutafukuza Pokot upande ile nyingine, Turkana ndio wako wengi. Sasa msimbukize sisi ugonjwa wenu. Tuketi na kumaliza hii kitu. Sisi kama sisi. Na itakwisha. Kwanza sasa hii ni pockets area kidogo si kila mahali. Asante Bwana Speaker.
Haya, tumepata mawaidha na uzoefu mkubwa. Members, as you key in your card, make sure that you do it very well because I see some members who had been here for the longest time are not appearing on the list. So let's have Honorable Benjamin Lagat of Ainamoi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I've been waiting for a very long time. Madam Speaker, earlier on when we started this debate, there was a bit of commotion, and maybe the honorable member for Turkana may think I don't support the motion. But mine was just a procedural matter, Mr. Speaker, because this is a house of procedures, house of rules. So, but I want to tell the member that I strongly support this motion. That is why I have been sitting here from the beginning. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, I also want to thank the member for bringing this matter to all of us here. I know where we sit ourselves. The operation that was ordered by the president, we have been waiting to hear the results. But clearly, Mr. Speaker, it looks like it is not working the way it was supposed to be, supposed to work. And that's why the member has brought the matter to the floor of the House. Mr. Speaker, we want to have one Kenya. Kenya where Turkanas are equal, Pokots are equal, Kikuyus and everybody else. Because we are one country, Mr. Speaker. When I hear the story about the Kerio Valley, the North Rift, Mr. Speaker, it is clearly an historical injustice, because all the governments that have come into place, it looks like they have marginalized those areas, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, when you hear both sides, because I have been listening here, members from the other regions of North Rift talking about Pokots. When you listen to Pokots also, like the way my friend has spoken, you can hear he has a point, Mr. Speaker. So I think as a House, I want to call out all the successive governments who have neglected those regions. It is very sad that 60 years after our independence, when in other regions of Kenya, we are building super highways, even a single road in some places have not been done. And Mr. Speaker, I want to encourage our current president, and he seems to understand the problem, that we must give the North Rift closer attention in terms of developments. We must open the area with good roads, Mr. Speaker. We must build good schools in the North Rift region. We must build good hospitals, Mr. Speaker. We must give them water, Mr. Speaker, so that this problem, I know it will take many years to come, but we must start it now, Mr. Speaker. We must look at Turkana in future with highways, Mr. Speaker, water, Mr. Speaker, and I know it is very possible, Mr. Speaker, to supply water to Turkana and other places. So I want to say, for the children, the mothers, the people who have been killed, I want to say condolences to those families. But we want this thing to stop now, Mr. Speaker. There is a point which has been raised here, and we are members of this House. These leaders from that region must talk. I know they are members of this House, but everyone is, most of them are not talking. We want them to talk. You know, Mr. Speaker, we may say who is bad, but let us talk, Mr. Speaker. I read somewhere in the Bible, Mr. Speaker, Jesus and Satan, they were talking, Mr. Speaker. They were discussing and saying, can you turn this into bread? They were talking, Mr. Speaker. So I think there is nothing that stops these leaders from Turkana, Pokot, Marakwet, Mr. Speaker, because peace must start from them. I think I like the point which somebody put and said, peace must start from them. They must initiate the peace process. They must talk. They must continue talking. They must talk to their churches. And I want to ask the President, Mr. Speaker, that these leaders should be called somewhere in one house. They talk, and Mr. Speaker, we must end the insecurity in the North region. Mr. Speaker, I want to support the motion and say we must develop.
Very well, Honorable Lagat, but remember even the Bible has verses and chapters. Let's hear from Honorable Omar Mwinyi of Changamwe. He's in the House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity. We are here this evening, Mr. Speaker, waiting patiently to contribute to a very important motion, because Turkana, or Kerio Valley for that matter, is supposed to be in Kenya. Kenya is counted as one of the countries in the world or maybe in Africa, that is somehow developed and civilized. But the events that, of course, are happening in the North Rift, definitely, Mr. Speaker, does not augur very well for this country, because if we are to develop as a country competing with the rest of the countries in Africa, then the first and foremost thing that, of course, we should consider is peace. And the peace should actually be followed by certain things which, of course, contribute towards its existence. Mr. Speaker, you've heard from various contributors here in this House about marginalization. Marginalization is something that needs to be addressed in this country, and this House must stand very firm. And we are in the budget session. We need to do something about areas that have been marginalized since independence. The most unfortunate part, Mr. Speaker, is Baringo, or these areas that have been mentioned here, belong to the areas where the second president of this country, who ruled, I can say, for almost 24 years, hailed from. And right now, the fifth president of this republic also hails from that end. So I think we need to do something to make sure cattle rustling, first of all, is now defined or redefined as wizi wa kutumia mabavu, that is robbery with violence. It's supposed to be equated to that, Mr. Speaker. The North Rift is supposed to be contributing towards the development of this country. They require to pay taxes, but if they are not empowered, then there is no way they can also contribute towards the taxes in this country. And that means they cannot help to develop this country. When a country is at war, or maybe a region is at war, Mr. Speaker, sir, there is nothing that is actually enjoyed in that area. I remember some times ago when we used to have war in Ireland, in Lebanon, women used to have even machine guns when they are in their kitchen. Though this was not actually a very good feature. But they have decided that enough is enough, and they have stopped all this nonsense. They are now living in peace. East Germany and West Germany have now reunited. They are now one nation, and they are very much marching towards leading this world in terms of development. Kenya today has various areas which are actually marginalized. And the reason for marginalization is because of bad politics. Politics of those who are in power to only serve the areas where they have interest and where they come from. If I may elaborate this, Mr. Speaker, we have areas like Meru, for example. They normally develop a plant known as Mira on Mogoka. This plant has been categorized as a drug in all the laboratories of the world, Mr. Speaker. But because we want their votes, we have even brought up a law in this House to make Mira a cash crop. We are big hypocrites, Mr. Speaker. And today, Mira and Mogoka is doing a lot of harm in areas of the coast, and it is making those people not to be contributors towards the economy of this country. I think it is high time this government decides to pay the Meru farmers
Order, order, order. Your time is done, and you had really delivered your point on the business in the House. So next, let's have Honorable Brighton Yegon of Konoin. You've been waiting, and thank you for waiting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to contribute to this motion of rising cases of insecurity in the North Rift region. Mr. Speaker, it is high time the government declare these perpetrators as terrorists. Why? I listened to the CS just the other day, and some of these bandits had taken hostage of a school, and they had converted it into their homes. Say that one of the terrorists is living in one of the classrooms as a bedroom, and the other classroom is a sitting room, and the other classroom is children's bedroom. Mr. Speaker, this should be condemned with the contempt that it deserves. Mr. Speaker, this banditry has denied children right to education, and children in banditry areas have actually failed to go to school. The 2010 Constitution, Mr. Speaker, Article 53, recognizes the right of all the children to be protected from abuse, neglect, all forms of violence, and also inhuman treatment. Mr. Speaker, it's a shame in the 21st century that the banditry still exists. Life in the banditry areas, Mr. Speaker, or life expectancy in banditry areas is actually low, and there is high propensity to be killed anytime, and humans there are predisposed to murder and death. Many people have actually died as a result of banditry in Kerio Valley. Mr. Speaker, the genesis of this banditry should actually be investigated, and the government should take time to build relevant infrastructure in these areas, such as taking deliberate action to put in place water, to put in place roads, schools, hospitals, and other social amenities. I support the current operations of government so as to end the banditry in this country. We call for end of insecurity in the North Rift areas. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Peter Lochakapong.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute to this adjournment motion. I want, on the onset, to say that I'm supporting the adjournment motion by the member for Turkana County, that we need to discuss the insecurity situation in the North Rift as a matter of urgent national importance. However, I want to say that when she was reading this adjournment motion, I don't know whether by design or by default, she mentioned the counties of the North Rift and left out West Pokot. Now, in my thinking, that created a perception or an attitude that probably West Pokot was left deliberately, so that when people are debating this motion, it looks like now West Pokot is the problem. It is not true. That, Honorable Speaker, we all want peace. And West Pokot, by virtue of its geographical location, has neighbors. Right from around Mount Elgon, we have Tesebei, we have the Karamojo, we are neighboring the Turkana, we are neighboring the Samburu, we are neighboring the Marakwet, and all those, most of them, if not all, are pastoralists. And you know, the behavior and the nature of pastoralists, these are people who move from one place to another, looking for pasture, looking for water, and that should not be construed to mean, therefore, that they are expansionists. That is not true. I want to say that counties, sub-counties, wards, and even locations have what we call administrative boundaries. This is just for administration. Now the people living around these boundaries have coexisted for a long time. And they have been moving. During drought, they move to one region. In another time, they come back. And therefore, I want to dispel the perception and clear the perception that our community is expansionist. It is not true. That too, cat rustling has a historical basis. When we were born, we found it is there. It is still ongoing. But we are only going to help to reduce or even to curb it, but it takes time. So like Honorable Moroto was saying, this thing has been here with us for some time. And we will not expect that we do the same things the same way and expect different results. I know now we have an operation ongoing. And I think the government this time is going to adopt a different approach in this operation so that they get desired results. So that is my thinking. And Honorable Speaker, we must distinguish between cattle rustlers and bandits. What is emerging these days is that some people who are becoming now bandits are doing banditry for commercial, and there are very few within communities. That should not again be treated to be a community problem. Then cattle rustling has been there for some time. We want to eradicate that, and the only way to do that is where we speak and address the issue of marginalization in these areas. You know, some of these places were closed. And then again, successive governments have marginalized these areas. So there should be a deliberate effort and a deliberate attempt by government to bring these places as closer as possible to the rest of Kenya. Now, I want also to say that leaders must check their utterances, because this again fuel peace, no, fuel insecurity, I mean. Because when somebody stands to say, we cannot discuss peace unless the Pokot move away, it is not true, it is not good, and it cannot work. Because these people have been like that for all this time, and therefore I want to say, as leaders, our people will either enjoy moments of peace or be in constant conflict, depending on how we lead them, and even the utterances we make, and how we are going to talk to them. I want to say, Honorable Speaker, just want you to add me 1 minute. I want to say something. That we had managed to some extent to bring.
Okay, let's hear that. Add him 1 minute. What's your point of order? Please.
Thank you,
proceed.
Mr. Speaker. As we contribute towards peace, is it in order for this member of parliament to say, when you say Pokots should move and they are occupying people's farms, and then is inciting, as they are listening, using parliament, that they cannot move? Is it in order, Mr. Speaker?
Very well, you've been heard that we really have to promote peace. Proceed, Honorable Peter. You have 1 minute.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I have not said that the Pokot should not move. What I have said is leaders must check their utterances. When you say that before we discuss anything else, you give a condition, that is not something that is going to promote peace. I would say we pursue all these things together and say, let us dialogue, let us talk. It is possible. Now, the member for Marakwet said that why did I come here in this National Assembly and advance
Honorable
the case
Peter, you can contribute very well without mentioning other members' names. It's usually very easy to make good contributions like that. So finish your 1 minute, please.
Thank you. So, Honorable Speaker, I was going to say that it is possible when leaders come together and talk, we can guide our communities well. That's what I wanted to say, that it is possible. But when we make noise and
Thank you, you've been heard. Let's have Honorable Kiborek. Honorable Kiborek has been waiting for quite some time and did not have a card. Proceed, Honorable Kiborek.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, cattle rustling is a very emotive issue and banditry is a very emotive issue. But before we look at that, Mr. Speaker, it has a historical background of marginalization and many things by the previous government. Because since independence and before independence, Mr. Speaker, there was a deliberate measure by governments, both colonial and after colonial, to develop AI potential areas and islands around the railway lines. That's why you see Mombasa, Nairobi, Nakuru, Kisumu, those areas, Eldoret, to where there is high potential area, white settlers and what have you. These areas which are a bit marginalized and a bit hardship were left deliberately. And I want to implore this House, because this is the same parliament which make budget of this country. I want to ask this parliament to deliberately put resources into these hardship areas, because they are part of this country, and we need to move together as a country where we don't have two countries in one nation. We do not have a country where we have Kenya A and Kenya B. I want to ask Parliament, in your committees, you make sure that deliberately you send some money to parts which are more marginalized and more hurried and left behind for many years. Mr. Speaker, as you have seen in this House when they were debating honorable members, this is the problem of cattle rustling, Mr. Speaker, and banditry, where everybody is pulling the tag to his or his side. Where if you speak from Turkana, you pull from this line. If you speak from Marakwet, you pull from this angle. If you speak from Pokot, you pull from this angle. So it's from Tugen and Samburu and those communities around there. To get the solution of this thing, Mr. Speaker, we need to remove emotions and pulling the tag towards your side for you to get publicity or to be supported back at home. Mr. Speaker, when you disarm Turkana today, Mr. Speaker, to be honest, tomorrow they will be raided by Toposa from Sudan. When you disarm Pokot today, they will be raided by Turkana tomorrow. When you disarm Samburu, they will be raided by Pokot tomorrow. When you disarm Marakwet, tomorrow they will be raided by Pokot and vice versa. And for those like Baringo, where naturally disarmed, they don't have guns, they become the punching bag for everyone. So to get the solution of this thing, Mr. Speaker, the government should first protect our boundaries. They should guard our boundaries towards Sudan, towards Uganda, and make sure that the business of protecting this nation should not be left to civilians. It should be the government protecting Kenyans from Somalia, from Ethiopia, and from bandits from Uganda. So that government disarm every person and individual in this country, take all the guns away and protect its own citizens, and make sure that the business of giving out NPR should not be given out again. The government should be protecting its own people. For example, Mr. Speaker, in Tiati, where in Baringo it has been a source of insecurity, there's only one police station in Tiati. And you want to get solution, you want to get bandits, you transport them 100 kilometers to a police station in Kenyan. It's a 4,000 kilometer square area in terms of landmass. So, Mr. Speaker, I applaud the work done by Kindiki. The first thing we should do is total disarmament to all these communities without leaving one behind. Disarm all the communities that are warring all the way from Borana, all the way from Isiolo to Turkana, to Baringo, to Elgeyo Marakwet, to West Pokot, to Samburu. Disarm all of them for us to have law and order, for this country to have law and order. Secondly, bring development. If you check at the universities in this country today, none of them, even one, is in those areas. If you go to all the government institutions, health referrals and all kind of government institutions, there is no single government institution in that area. And I was asking a question, Mr. Speaker, why can't we take RTS to train in West Pokot so that they'll be training and doing some the practical with bandits? When they have time, enough time, they can deal with bandits and go back to barracks to bring law and order in that area, Mr. Speaker. Why can't you take the Hastu and the stock theft, which is lying idle in Gilgil, to somewhere in Samburu and around the Soguta Valley, so that there's presence of military in the area, Mr. Speaker, for people to feel the government, for people to see the government, bring development, disarm everyone, and then, Mr. Speaker, the last one is to continuously make sure that these areas are never marginalized or left behind. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and God bless this country.
Very well. Let's now hear from Honorable Harrison Kombe.
Mheshimiwa Spika, hakuchi hucha. Ama kwa kusema kweli, swala hili la usalama ni swala tata sana, lakini yapasa tufahamu ya kwamba usalama huanza na mimi na wewe. Vile tutakavyoishi ndivyo vitakavyochangia usalama wetu. Lakini kwa sehemu hizi husika katika mjadala huu ni kwamba zina historia, na kwamba huu mchezo wa wizi ama wizi wa ng'ombe kwao kwa miaka na mikaka imekuwa kama mchezo. Huyu akiibia huyu, kesho yake ni yule mwingine naye akaibia mwingine. Lakini haya yote yamechangiwa na kuachwa nyuma kimaendeleo. Nilipata nafasi wakati mwingine kutembelea Turkana, Kapenguria, na Mheshimiwa Spika, kwangu kuna barabara mbaya. Lakini vile nilivyoona katika sehemu hii ni mbaya zaidi. Na hiyo peke yake inaweza kuchangia kutokuwa na usalama. Barabara na vituo vya polisi. Kwanza sikumbuki kuona polisi njiani mpaka nikafika Takwel. Bila kuona askari kwa barabara, ni kuhangaika tu, uingie kwa kishimo, uamuke, uende. Hali ilikuwa mbaya. Na imefikia wakati hata ukiangalia runinga wakati wa kuelezea janga la njaa, hakika hata kama utoki Turkana, wewe bado utatokwa na machozi yale utakayoyaona. Hii ni ishara ya kwamba ndugu zetu wamewachwa nyuma, na ni machungu, maana Kenya ni moja na inastahili kwa sasa. Na nipongeze serikali kwa ile hatua ambayo imechukua, lakini pia niseme haijatosha. Hawa ndugu zetu wanastahili kuongezewa vituo vya polisi. Kama kituo kitakuwa mbali sana na kingine, angalau iwe ni kilomita 5 ama 10 ikizidi. Lakini vile ilivyo, unatembea zaidi ya kilomita 25, 50, hautaona hata serikali. Uongo. Hiyo haitowezekana kuweka usalama katika maeneo haya. Hawa ndugu zetu wako mipakani, na wakati mwingi kama hivi ambavyo operation inaendelea, wengi wao wale majangili hawako hapa nchini. Wamevuka mipaka, wameenda kuficha silaha, wakirudi huku wako mikono kitupu, na hiyo inakuwa ni shida. Light kama mipaka yetu ingewezwa kulindwa kisawasawa, basi naona hata ndugu zetu nao pia wangeweza kuwa katika hali nzuri ya usalama na wangeweza kuendelea. Swala la maji ni utata, na ningependekeza hapa ule mradi wa serikali wa kuchimba mabwawa udumishwe zaidi katika sehemu hizi, ndio huku kushambuliana kusiweko. Maana inakuwa vigumu. Juzi ng'ombe wako wameibwa, na keshoye unawaona wamekuja kunyweshwa katika bwawa hapo nyumbani. Moja kwa moja hutaweza kuvumilia, hata kama mvumilivu wa kiasi gani. Hivyo basi hali hiyo ya maji pia ikaweze kuchunguzwa. Hospitali, jambo la kusikitisha. Hospitali katika maeneo haya ni utembee mwendo mrefu zaidi. Angalau serikali wafikirie na iwajengee hospitali ili kuona kwamba nao wajihisi ni Wakenya.
Asante sana, umeweza kusikizwa vema sana. Wacha tumpate mjumbe wa Muhoroni, Onyango Koyo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for remembering me during this very important motion. The onset, I want to thank my colleague, the women rep for Turkana, for coming up with a very serious motion about security. Nothing can happen to this country or to anybody when there's no security. Appealed that even the Kenya Kwanza government, which pledged to fix all these problems immediately, they put the Bible down, have not been able to address it. When the situation here is very small, we want to be very sincere. For us to be able to fix these insecurity problems, we need two things that must be done. Leaders must engage. Leaders from diverse communities, diverse localities must be able to meet and engage. Bring their people on board and ask them to be able to expose the few Kalatan characters. Two, the government must also be able to provide the very basic commodities that you need. There should be water. 50 years almost after independence, I don't know why cattle should be struggling to get water or to get good pastures. When we are busy building high rises, we are funding things that are not necessary, not very relevant, and we are forgetting that in Rift Valley, the mainstay of the livelihood of those people is keeping cattle, and we are not providing for those cattle to be kept properly. Leaders must be sincere, because among them, I think could be the people who are either directly involved in the so-called banditry, or the people who are promoting banditry, some for political expediencies, some for economic reasons. And the government must also ensure that because of this lucrative business of selling cattle around, the government administrative officers should be reshuffled every other time, so that the DC who has been in Pokot for 5 years will easily find a way of facilitating the cattle rustling across, so that he doesn't come from that area, but he wants to make his money. So we pledge that this thing is taken up very seriously, and that leaders, we must be very sincere. If leaders from Pokot can meet with the Marakwet, and they don't talk with bitterness, that is how this insecurity has been. I come from a constituency, there's an island. Across there are the Nandis. Across again are the Kipsigis. But we live very cohesively like brothers and sisters. We have small cases of cattle rustling, but we have managed them because as leaders we are engaging. We believe that we are brothers. It's God who created our constituency, our geographical setup, and he knew that we are brothers. That's why he brought us together. But if it has told when you see the Marakwets, when they meet with the Pokots, there's a lot of bitterness. That bitterness is generated by natural hate, which will not help us achieve what we want. We got independent a long time ago, and I'm wondering that even after 24 years, when we were wallowing in Nyao milk and everything, that some people are still claiming that they were in Rift Valley, that they don't have water, they don't have roads. And a lot of roads have been built in some places. I know in Rift Valley that almost all the roads that were supposed to be done by Kera are on low-volume seal. And I'm wondering how these places like Pokot should be having lacking roads. So we want to be very serious and sincere to ourselves and make sure that the government must be put to task to provide water, provide infrastructure, provide electricity, so that the thieves can be seen at night where they are pushing the cattle. With those few remarks, I want to say that I support, and that is a very important motion that must be supported. Thank you.
Very well. I believe Honorable Protas Sewesit had spoken on this. And therefore, let's hear from Honorable Irene Njoki of Bahati.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I rise to support my sister
from Turkana. I have listened to her. I have heard what my colleagues have commented, and I feel her. I feel her as a mother. I feel her as a leader. Normally, when there is insecurity in any place or displacement in any place, it is the mother who suffers with the family. I want to request, as we debated, Mr. Speaker, I heard our colleague talk about having peace talks. I was asking myself, why do we need to reinvent the wheel? We have been told what Trans Nzoia did. Why can't we live by that example? Mr. Speaker, I want to ask our government to put together all these leaders. All the speakers who have been here have said that peace talks will help. I want to request our government, our CS, our PS, Interior, put the leaders of the affected areas together. We are living example. In Nakuru, we had confirmed where people, young girls were being killed. We were put together in one room. We did not have any emotions. There was so much blame games, but it ended. Dialogue is key. Mr. Speaker, I want to also ask the government, it is important also to provide development. We know these ministries have emergency funds. Why should we be talking and requesting the government, Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Transport, should focus development to these areas? Roads, if roads are inaccessible, they should be done. Why should leaders look like they are pleading? We actually request the government to feel these leaders, to feel the people of the North Rift plus West Pokot, to feel these people of Baringo. I get also affected in Bahati when these people fight, when these people are injured. From Baringo, my hospital, which is in Bahati, basically where it's a level 4, there is overflow. And it is a referral hospital, yes. But if we had development in Solai, if we had hospitals in Solai, that is where those people could be going. But we don't want anyone to go to hospital because we can be able to solve this problem. I also, Mr. Speaker, want to request the government, as I finish, to protect our boundaries. Sometimes it looks like a joke. I read somewhere where somebody had commented, you are busy talking and these bandits are on holiday in our neighboring countries. We want to request the government to look at that, protect our boundaries. And finally, the government had promised or had indicated that they are actually going to protect our administrative officers. Why should officers die? Why should the chief die? They had been told they are going to be given 5 officers. It is the high time they implement it. Mr. Speaker, I want to support this motion, and I rise, let's take development, let's protect, let's not reinvent the wheel, let's call leaders for a peace talk in one room where they'll not have any emotions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Deputy Whip Naomi Wako, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to add my voice to this very important motion on insecurity in Turkana area, which also touches on many other areas that some of us come from. I also want to take this opportunity to congratulate the Women Rep Turkana for coming up with this very important motion that touches on the lives of our people and many other Kenyans. that suffer from this problem. Mr. Speaker, cattle rustling and banditry has affected Turkana and many other areas in northern and northeastern Kenya. For the last many years, that has been the practice. And before, people used to think that it is the normal cattle rustling and nothing much. But right now, it has become a business whereby these bandits are hired in order to attack, get the cattle, and then a certain businessman, maybe somewhere, gets hold of the cows and they sell. So it has become a huge business, and it continues from time to time. As a result of this, many have been widowed. I come from Marsabit County, and I know that many of our young women have been widowed, and we have created a lot of orphans as a result of this. In fact, sometimes I sit and I think, I tell myself that maybe we need to come up with a school that will take care of orphans so that those children will grow together from different ethnic groups, because right now they are placed in different places, they don't know one another. But if the government can come up with a school that will take care of orphans that have been created out of this banditry and also tribal clashes, then our children can grow together and overcome maybe the problem that we have with our ethnic groups. Poverty level again in all these areas has increased, and I know my own experience in Marsabit is the same in Turkana or other areas, because when they do this and get the animals from one person or one family and go to another places and enrich themselves, others then are rendered poor. And I know very well that the poverty level of my own county has gone high as a result of this practice. And so there is need for us to see how we can empower our people and also see how best they can earn their living than, other than just doing pastoralism. That has proved to be a very difficult lifestyle now, because all the pastoralists today have no food even to put on their table. They cook food for their animals, they struggle, and without you knowing, another enemy has come and driven away your animals. So it is the responsibility of our government, I think, to see how we can build our people or grow our people economically, help them so that they can start having a different way of income other than just keeping the animals. They can do businesses, they can, invest in different type of businesses so that they can earn a living. Again, what we need to do is to make sure that all our young people go to school, because most of the time you see that our young boys are involved in this work and they are the ones taking care of the animals. And so if the government can push the locals to send their children to school so that we can have a peaceful society, that can really help. The drought is already taking away our animals, and it is high time now for us to overcome some of these problems that we go through. Tribalism is another area that has really contributed to this, and ethnic clashes has also contributed a lot. So it is high time for us to introduce, maybe, I'm going faster now because of the time, it is high time now for us to introduce, even in the schools, whether we...
Very well, 1 minute.
Thank you. It is better for us just to introduce in all the schools in these areas to have one lesson on peaceful coexistence and see how we can merge all these people from different ethnic groups so that we can promote peaceful coexistence. Mr. Speaker, as I finish, I want to congratulate the effort of the government and also pray that we will invest in those areas so that the areas that have been neglected for many years can catch up with others, and also see that they can do other things and earn their living. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support the motion. Thank you.
Honorable Francis Sigei of Sotik.
Asante sana Bwana Spika kwa kutupatia nafasi hii kwa mjadala ambaye ni ya maana sana, na ningependa kushukuru mwakilishi wa Turkana County ambaye ameleta mjadala huu na kusema ya kwamba ninaunga mkono. Nashukuru sana. Nafikiri baada ya siku ya leo tutakuwa na mambo ya kusema. Ya pili, Bwana Spika, ningependa kuunga mkono serikali kwa yale ambayo anafanya sasa kwa upande wa North Rift. Tunaunga mkono mwasiri, tunaunga mkono joint forces ya Kenya Police na Kenya Army or Defense Forces. Jambo la pili, Mheshimiwa Speaker, ni mimi nataka pia kuhimiza ya kwamba serikali hata ingawa anachukua hatua ya kutoa silaha kwa watu ya huko, tungependa kuona ya kwamba waziri wetu Profesa Kindiki anachukua hatua ya kuweka watu pamoja. Wacha watu wasungumuze. Bwana Spika, tungependa kuona siku moja hao viongozi wote wa North Rift wafungiwe kwa room, alafu walazimishwe na watu ya dini, watu ya kanisa wawe arbitrators ya maneno ya vita. Jambo la pili, tatu, Bwana Spika, ningependa kulaani sana mauaji ambayo imeendelea huko. Tumepoteza watoto, tumepoteza machiefs, tumepoteza askari, umaskini imekuja, mashule imefungwa. Mambo haya yataendelea mpaka lini? Bwana Spika, mimi ningependa kuomba serikali iweze kuweka askari wa Kenya Defense Forces. Bwana Spika, nimefanya kazi upande wa North Eastern, na kuna watu ya jeshi Garissa, Mandera, Wajir. Tungependa tuwe na stations ya kuweka Kenya Defense Forces huko kwa Valley, Turkana kama mara 3 hapo, ili watu waweze kurudi shule na kufanya kazi. Jambo la tatu, ya 4, Bwana Spika, mimi ningependa kuomba ya kwamba mabarabara itengenezwe kwa hizi sehemu, na kuuliza watu ya huko wapewe maji, wapewe stima, wapewe mashule, kujenga shule mazuri. Serikali lazima iweke pesa huko. Bwana Spika, nataka pia kusema ya kwamba ingawa serikali inaendelea na mambo ya operations huko, mimi ningependa kuona watu ya kanisa wanafanya kazi na hawa ili tuweze kuleta amani. Bwana Spika, jambo hili nataka kuona ya kwamba hawa viongozi wanakuja pamoja. Unajua Bwana Spika, watu wakiongea kama viongozi wa Pokot, wengine waongea kama viongozi wa Marakwet. Ni lini tutaweka watu pamoja, waketi chini na wazungumuze, tuone ya kwamba wanakubaliana kwa mambo ya amani. Kwa hivyo Bwana Spika, nataka kushukuru sana kwa hii mjadala, na mimi nataka kujua kwamba kwa hivi karibuni tuweze kupata amani ili watu waweze kukaa kama nchi nyingine. Hao watu wamekaa na umaskini, wamekuwa marginalized, na hii nchi ni moja. Kwa hivyo Bwana Spika, naunga mkono. Thank you.
Very well, Honorable Charles Kamuren. And you can, please, if you can be exact so that we get more members to contribute. Proceed, Honorable Charles Kamuren.
Asante Bwana Spika. Ninasimama kuunga mkono mjadala huu, na hii mjadala imekuja kwa wakati inayofaa, na nashukuru sana. Ya kwanza, Bwana Spika, ni kwamba yale inayoendelea katika hali hiyo, ninashukuru sana serikali, hasa rais wetu, kwa sababu juzi aliweza baada ya kukutana na viongozi akatoa amri hiyo ya kwamba wale watu wetu ambao wanahangaika wapate kuangaliwa, na kulikuwako na settlement ya hii kazi ya operation ambayo inaendelea. So nataka nichukue nafasi hii kumshukuru rais. Ya pili, ninatambua kazi ambayo waziri wake Profesa Kindiki anafanya pamoja na hiyo wizara ya kujaribu kuhakikisha kwamba usalama inakuja. Lakini katika hiyo laini, eneo langu la bunge la Baringo Kusini, sehemu ambayo ilikuwa kasete mahali ambayo inaitwa Mochongoi na Mukutane, hatuchapata hiyo operation. KDF wala ambao walisemekana wamekuja hawajawahi kufika kwangu. Na ninapoongea, Bwana Spika, ni kwamba jana mbuzi iliwezwa kuibwa jana na marisasi mchana saa 9, na watu walihangaishwa jana, na hiyo mbuzi imeenda jinsi ilienda. Vile vile upande la Moiwe wiki uliopita kulikuwa na shida kama hiyo. So hatuchapata usaidizi kama vile tulikuwa natarajia, lakini tuna imani kwamba mpangilio iko. Ningeomba kwamba wale wanaohusika waharakishe wakuje wasaidie watu. Eneo langu la bunge, Bwana Spika, sisi hatuna bunduki ambayo watu wanasema wanayo. Divosa area yetu imechukuliwa kubwa, location 3 ambaye ni Rukus, Mukutane, Arabal na hata Mochongoi. Karibu kilomita 64 imechukuliwa na hao wakora. Walipoanza hiyo mambo ya operation upande wa huko, jinsi imesemekana, kwa sababu sijui, hao wakaidi wamejazana kwangu. Divosa nasema wala ambao wanahusika, kama ni ndeke ama ni nini, wasaidike na watu watolewe, wakora watolewe kwa mashamba ya watu. Sisi hatuna bunduki. Naona hao wengine wanapojadili hapa wanaongea kwamba watu wafanye nini, na yule ambaye hana. Nilikuwa kuna shida na nani? Mpaka saa hii ni watu wangu tumepoteza, mashule 5 haijafunguliwa mpaka saa hii. Ni nini ambaye sisi tunayo? Naomba kwamba watu wetu wapate kusaidiwa na mambo ya disarmament. Bunduki ichukuliwe kwa watu. Bwana Spika, nashangaa wakati naona mchumbe anaposema watu wake wakae na bunduki. Bunduki ni haramu. Bunduki ni ya askari ya Kenya. Sasa unaposema kwamba tunataka tuongee mambo ya amani na watu wako wanaye bunduki, na katiba nasema bunduki ni ya askari. Kwanza huyo raia atoe bunduki kama vile wameambiwa na serikali. Kama nakataa, serikali watumie nguvu watoe bunduki. Hakuna haja, kwa sababu hii bunduki si ya raia. Nashangaa hata wengine wanauliza mambo ya Ami. Ami wamefanya makosa gani? Ami hawaja kuja kufanya kazi, wamekuja kusaidia hawa askari. So naomba kwamba, kwa sababu hii imekuwa biashara, naona hawa wachumbe wenzangu hawataki kusema hii ni biashara ya watu fulani, ndivyo naangaisha watu. Na mimi nasema kwamba bunduki ichukuliwe kwa watu na NPRs watu wapewe, na hii ukaidi yule anayohusika, kama ni mchumbe, kama ni nani, basi washikwe. Hii mabunduki ya haramu irudi kwa serikali. Tusipembelezane kwa ukaidi. Mkaidi ni mkaidi. Wacha mambo ya maendeleo. Kwani nani anaye maendeleo? Hata nami sina maendeleo. Lakini watu wako sasa wachukue bunduki ndio serikali wakuje kwa maendeleo. Yaani unatisha serikali kwa bunduki ndio wakuje utengenezee barabara na mashule. Toa bunduki kwanza, ndivyo serikali wakuje. Hiyo ukaidi ya kufunza watu kaeni na bunduki ndio serikali wakuje wasaidie nyinyi, wewe hata nawe kama kiongozi wewe.
Very well. Honorable GK George Kariuki.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to contribute to this motion. And I want to congratulate the mover of this motion, because we know, Honorable Speaker, that insecurity destabilizes human life in a great way, especially now in North Rift, where women and children have been unable to live or unable to live the kind of a life that other Kenyans are enjoying. So I want to call upon leaders who are from these areas to support the government's effort to be able to stamp out this menace. Mr. Speaker, we know that there can never be development without security. We, as key supporter of this government, we know that there is no way our people will be able to build schools. There is no way they'll be able to put up hospitals. There is no way the people of North Rift will be able to enjoy quality life if we don't encourage leaders from these areas to support the efforts of the government to be able to secure the lives of our people. One of the things that is fueling insecurity in North Rift, we know, is livestock business. The criminals who are engaging in this activity know where to take these animals. And there are people who are roughing all the way to the bank, Mr. Speaker, with the proceeds of this nefarious crime. We need to call them out and tell them that what they are doing is wrong and it's a crime. And the area we get them to face the law, the better. Mr. Speaker, we should not negotiate with criminals and murderers. Anyone who is holding a gun, ready to kill you and take away your animals or whatever you have, is a criminal. It's actually another, if it's here in Nairobi, we will call that, we will call it a crime. But when we go to these areas, then we want to call it something else, cattle rustling. You know, you want to pamper these people. We should not allow them to continue behaving this way, because we will not have a country to run without the support of every Kenyan, especially in the area of security. We have children who are malnourished in these areas. They have never seen a classroom. They have never been to a hospital, most of them. And you know, Mr. Speaker, insecurity and low life expectancy are always hand in hand. You cannot be able to live a good life. You cannot be able to live to the 70s, 80s if you are living in these areas, because you can die any time of a small ailment that can be treated in a hospital, where you cannot access because of insecurity. So I want to call upon leaders from these areas, especially politicians, to make sure that we work together in harmony, we live together in harmony, and we preach peace, because peace is what will keep us going as a country and will keep development spreading in this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and once again, I congratulate the mover of this motion.
Very well. Honorable Wundo, take 2 minutes so that we can spare some 2 minutes for the Chair of Security.
Okay, Chair. But Honorable Speaker, it's sad indeed that several years since independence, we still have this shameful menace in this country of ours called Kenya. I listened to the governor for Trans Nzoia, Natembeya, who was the former regional commissioner for that area, and what he revealed was extremely shocking. And indeed, if that's the case, then probably the current onslaught, the current operation is targeting the wrong solution to a typically commercial enterprise. We need to address that commercial enterprise. Honorable Speaker, the poor road network and infrastructure in northeastern Kenya, 15 years or almost 15 years since devolution, is an acceptable dereliction of duty by the successive county governments. We call upon the county governments to provide water, build roads, build hospitals, build schools, so that we do not have to fight over resources, so that the people do not feel neglected and surely isolated from the rest of Kenya. I've had the opportunity to walk around there, and they would always tell you, Salimia wa Kenya. Many of them still think President Moi is still the President of the Republic of Kenya. Is that bad? With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, because I've requested me to keep it short, I support the motion. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Chair, Security.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. For listening to my colleague brother talking about our brothers in North Rift, still believing that Moi is the president. I think he just tried to make a joke anyway. But all the same, Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me the opportunity to rise to contribute to this important motion. It is really very unfortunate, Mr. Speaker, that such a menace is still happening in the 21st century in a country as good as Kenya. It's true, this thing has been with us for quite some time, almost since independence. And the subsequent governments have been always trying to control, but it seems that they've never really managed to fix the problem. It seems to be growing bigger and becoming more complicated, and even actually mutating from a mere cattle rustling to something more bad. That is where we see these criminals could even attack our security forces, burn the vehicles, and even killing the innocent wives, mothers, and children. It is very unfortunate it's happening. But I want to bring to the attention of this House and Kenya that the country have really shiftily moved to address the problem. For 2 weeks now, we're all aware of the operation undertaken and led by the National Police Service Command and being supported by the KDF. And already to this end, there is a lot of success. We've been reported that more than 157 cases, people have been already arrested, and there is good progress. There is a hope at the end of the tunnel, and His Excellency the President has assured the country that they are not going to leave any stone unturned. The CS Interior had committed the same. Today, in this afternoon, we had a joint session of both the Internal Security and Defense Committee, and we had a very fruitful discussion and engagement with both CS Defense and Interior, and we got the opportunity to understand the operation and the activities being undertaken in the North Rift to address the problem, which has really escalated, affecting more than 4 counties. So I want to assure this House that the government is more than committed, is doing anything possible and within its capacity to bringing this to an end. Maybe some bit of legislation, of resources may be needed from this House to support our operation and security personnel to effectively address the problem. So I want to say that it's really very unfortunate. Lives already been lost, damages have been already caused, and the government had committed to have a Marshall Plan to include opening the area in terms of infrastructure to ensure that they have a long-lasting solution to end this problem. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, and the time being 7 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Tuesday, 7th March 2023 at 2:30 p.m.